fighter up. Stand up, patriots, stand up. This one's proud of America. Great God, give
taking over those headquarters. They have put that there in place to try at least 8 people. One person has been out here for many weeks. There are also other folks who are still here, and they are not leaving,
Let me show you something about that.
They have been out here on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge which is just over there, the headquarters, taking over those buildings there. And
the man was unarmed.
Are not leaving.
This is his pistol.
Is showing off his pistol that
he was totally unarmed when he was killed.
At this point, we still have not heard from police exactly how this turned violent, but we do know that they have blocked off some of the area, and we do not have word as to what they're going to do, but there is going to be a press conference a little bit later on today.
Now, they murdered an innocent man with his hands up like this. Shot him in the chest 3 times. I know he was unarmed because I'm wearing his fucking pistol. Gunshots, guys. Somebody's shooting somewhere.
This is Armageddon now. They might kill us. They probably will kill us here. But we're just a few. There is many more.
Q1, where are you at? Q1, over.
There's no fear here because I know this is the right thing.
anti-government protesters occupying federal land at a national wildlife refuge and calling on militia members from around the country to join them.
It started with a group of ranchers unhappy that 2 of their neighbors were sentenced to lengthy federal prison stints for starting fires on their own land. Their supporters first protested, and then a group broke off and decided to take control of a national wildlife refuge in Oregon.
People ask me, Jason, what was the plan? The plan was, I'm going to have a First Amendment protest that cannot and will not be ignored.
I'm asking you to follow me and go to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. And we're going to make a hard stand.
These are not federal lands, these are state lands.
That's right.
They don't stop the federal
Follow me.
It's about
40 miles.
Guys always talk about getting off the couch and doing something. How come things in our country doesn't change? Well, now's the time to stand up and make that stand and make your voices heard.
Armed protesters have taken over several buildings at a wildlife refuge near Burns, Oregon.
There are no local police, no federal police, no police whatsoever in this area.
We have basically taken over the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, and this will become a base place for patriots from all over the country to come and to be housed here. We need you to bring your arms, and we need you to come to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
Description of the vehicle, please.
And all the grant money goes to people being able to make this crap right here. They find rocks and they weave. That's what I want my tax dollars to go to. We don't have better stuff to focus on than to have federal grants go to people housed in these huts, and they all are the basket weavers and everything like that. There's not.
I've been writing about public lands conflicts for most of my life now. I went to the Malheur hoping to find a
Yeah, Harney County used to be the wealth in the state. It's been diminished to the poorest. And it's because of fences like this.
In the early days, everybody was confused. A lot of the media was there just sort of chronicle the daily events. There were some of us probing and asking harder questions. You know, who are these people? Who organized this?
Fish and Wildlife Service come and built this fence. They did not have authority to build this fence in the first place, and so we are removing it.
I come from rural Utah, and what drove me out there is I understood this ranching culture and the community.
Talk to you soon.
Alan's kind of the textbook definition of an organizer, of an activist. He's proven really adept at getting all of these little groups together on the same page.
Ammon Bundy said that the refuge was an example of federal overreach, and now they have weapons and they're making a stand.
Woo! 11 years in the Marine Corps, redeployments to Iraq, but now I'm actually out serving my country.
Are you planning on tearing any more fences down, or what?
Perhaps. You know, that's can't answer what-if questions. Don't know all the answers to those. So what if is the sky.
Sure, but do you have a plan, or is there?
Not completely.
It was beautiful land. There's so much feed that we produce for America off of this. Why do we import a single beef? Why do we import a single thing of food when we're the greatest food-producing country in the world. We should be exporting, bringing wealth into our country. It makes sense. This is a good day.
Barbecued pork, man, and chicken enchiladas.
Yes. About time.
You went right on the line. Over.
Roger. Yeah, we're just on duty, hun. Making sure everybody stays safe. We don't need a time down here.
What was the reception like at the refuge?
It was dark by the time we got there. You know, and I'm used to guns. Guns don't bother me. I grew up with them. And when we drove in, they just backed the cars out of the way. We went down, went into this building, and pretty soon Ammon Bundy came in, and like a typical rancher, he went around, shook everybody's hand, looked everybody right in the eye, and said, "Thank you for coming." We asked him why he came. He wanted to bring attention to the plight of Westerners. There's literally not enough private land in the West to have a viable operation.
It's very difficult to ranch in the arid West. You got people on the edge already of profitability, and they're dependent upon the federal lease for all of their grazing. It's not the economic engine that it was 50 years ago. Whenever it's put into jeopardy, and you have children especially, there's a the Malheur Refuge became Exhibit A of that anti-federal fury.
We just come before you today, walking in your spirit, and we just thank you with your spirit through us, working through us to do your work. Your people are still here working for you, and that this country has not been lost, that no matter what people in this land want to turn you away, that you are God and that you will never turn your back.
Amen.
So you're lawful. You believe in laws. You're not anti-government.
So that's what we're doing here. You're not going to find justice in a federal court. What are we to do? What are our people to do?
You're asking for the rights, the God-given rights already.
That's right.
And to be left alone, just the harassment.
We create government to protect against criminals. But when they start to do the things that criminals normally do, well, then that redefines them now as criminals.
Amen.
The Constitution is law. Who do I call when it's violated? Slowly over time, we lose more and more. I mean, the Patriot Act, that's a pretty big piece of legislation that completely violated the Constitution and took every right of every single American in the country. And it passed with bipartisan support. Whoopee. It's terrible. I started with politics in Georgia, and I spoke out in my own hometown. against spending $250,000 on a Lenco Bearcat vehicle, which was highly unnecessary. There's hundreds of these bought all across the country, and they're paid for by Department of Homeland Security. They said it was to protect police officers. So I did a public records request. I says, I want to know every officer that's been injured by gunfire in the last 20 years. There was one who shot himself on the range, and a Bearcat doesn't protect you from that. Thanks, but no tanks. I made Facebook friends with politically active people. I wanted to be heard. I wanted to speak truth to power. On the steps of the Capitol in Washington, D.C. I wouldn't mind talking to my senators and congressmen, but I already know that they don't listen to me, so we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll listen to me if I'm here, where they live, trying to talk to them face to face. We'll see. We've protested and nobody's listening. Nothing's changed and nothing's happening. I went to Malheur because somebody's standing up for something and I want to be there.
A call went out across basically everybody's networks. You would get truckloads full of people just rolling in. Libertarian communities, militias, everybody that could be connected, get your guns and come to Oregon. We're gonna need you. That's it.
Back up. Back up. You guys won't be allowed to come anywhere closer.
This quickly became a stew of right-wing militants. They all had different motivations for being here, so it was hard to make a picture that made a lot of sense.
The land here needs to be returned to the people of this county. Federal government's got to withdraw.
Patriots, ready to make a stand. This is a call to arms.
I will stand, and I will stand till my last dying breath.
If you're especially in the Pacific Northwest, you need to get out there.
Whether you're armed or unarmed, you get up here.
I guess during the whole event, I never lost sight of we can do this peacefully and end it peacefully. By the same token there, I think I have a double standard because I really was pushing end this, whatever it takes.
I do believe they were looking for a confrontation with the federal government, so to line federal agents up out there, I believe would have been playing into playing into their hands as far as that goes, or providing a confrontation or the spark they were looking for.
We have what's referred to as a DPMS AR-15 5.56. This is what U.S. military generally are going to be trained in some type of format with this type of weapon. This is going to be referred to as a semi-automatic sporting rifle or an assault rifle. There's many weapons that fit into this classification. I would say that the definition of assault rifle would more or less be determined by who the user was that has the weapon.
When it became apparent this was going to be a long siege, that attracted more and more media from around the country, around the world. You got cowboys with guns taking over a bird sanctuary in the middle of the desert, screaming about American tyranny.
Because I lived my life in the rural West, I have this kind of regional contempt for spectacle. And I didn't see that skepticism applied by the media that showed up every morning to enjoy the Ammon Bundy show.
Turn to us, please. Turn to us, thank you.
And call upon all those who love freedom to come and support this effort in the way that they feel they should.
What's today your first directive? This is a terrorist organization or a violent extremist group gathering here. How do you respond to that?
I say look around.
Is there anything you could tell us about your plans to leave?
We're going to think about it and then we'll get back to you guys.
They understood how to use the media and how to present their best face. The gun-toting, justice-seeking cowboy, the man of the land.
We're beginning to try to prepare to transfer this to the Harney County as the Harney County Resource Center. Did you see the sign that just came in?
Yeah.
Did it look okay?
Yeah, it looked great.
Our objective is to pass the baton to the residents of Harney County so that they can have access to their resources so that we can go home.
Shit is just thrown everywhere in this whole building. There's a brand new kayak or canoe just thrown on top of a pile of crap.
These were all sort of scripted press events to keep them in the news and to help try and control the agenda.
So essentially, this is taxpayer dollars being spent and neglected.
The goal is to recognize the fact that our federal government does not own this land. It's owned by the citizens of Harney County and the citizens of Oregon.
This is your land. This is Oregon. This is Harney County. It's not ours. I can't wait to get out of Dodge, okay? So, but I will stay here. This property does not go back to the federal government. It does not return to the federal government. You know, if there's just one rancher that's saying, please help me, what about him? What about the one? And so, thank you, and I will call it good at that.
Hey, boss.
Hey!
Hey, Lavoy.
Good to see you.
Before we split up, I got a communication with NBC. I need to put you online with them.
Okay.
On the phone, okay?
Lavoy Finicum, a rancher from Arizona, very animated, had a good sense of media relations, sort of I'm gonna put my arm around your shoulder and we're all in this together against those bastards.
Finicum felt that his cultural heritage, his ability to be the person that he wanted to be, was under siege.
This is part of my ranch. This grass, I own it. It's called my grazing rights, my forage rights. And these cows are fat and sassy and looking good. And got a few more of my cows down under some trees down there. That is mine, that I pay for, that I fight every year to make my mortgage payment on. They claim that this is theirs. And I claim that the forage right, the grass, is mine. Good people, so what can we do? We've been voting, we've been donating money, and they promised to stand up for freedom. Well, what did we do? We gave the Republican Party the House and the Senate. What have they done? Nothing. And you think we're going to give them a Republican president and they're going to stand up on the Constitution and they're going to require the federal government to live within the frameworks that we, the people, have given them, namely the Constitution? It's not going to happen.
Finicum was indeed the icon, the brave cowboy going against the despised federal power.
American cowboy taking on the federal government, and the confrontation now getting violent.
Rancher Cliven Bundy refused to pay rent to herd his cattle on government land. Anti-government groups and armed militia members joining the fight.
Finicum came to the Bundy Ranch, and something there touched a nerve in him. People fell under the spell of the Bundy militancy during the initial confrontations.
The United States government is operating with unlimited power over we the people of the state of Nevada.
Government officials concerned for their safety pulled out, leaving Bundy and the protesters behind.
The ranch standoff may be over for now, but the Bundy family is ready for round two.
They had gotten all the iconic footage they needed, the cowboy hats and the horses, and Lavoy Finicum and the American flags confronting the federal agency and prevailing. They were emboldened for sure.
The West has never been won!
You have to imagine that you walk away from that experience we embarrass
Is it just normal people here?
Well, find normal. Find me one normal people. I mean, we're Americans, we're not normal. We created the best country in the world and then forgot how to use it. My father fought in the Vietnam War and got cancer. I sat in the University of Washington hospital as an 8-year-old. And I remember asking, is it contagious? No, son, your dad's cancer isn't contagious. He didn't get it from his dad, and you're not going to get it from him. Okay, then where did he get it? Well, he fought in a war in Vietnam and was sprayed with a chemical called Agent Orange, and that causes cancer. Oh, well, made me a student of what the government will actually do. I studied the Vietnam War. I studied Agent Orange. I found out that they knew what it does and what it caused and decided to use it anyways. The government purposely did harm to my father. The only place that I'm going to lose freedom in America is from the government. The fight is here. It's not anywhere else, it's here.
I said I didn't want to credit Bundy. There's no way to deny that the only reason this county, and perhaps it's me representing this county, has the limelight and has hold of the mic is because a bunch of armed thugs in our community gets enough limelight that we have, I think I counted 13 film cameras here, so. We had no idea what Bundy's next move might be. He wasn't communicating. He wasn't telling anybody what he was going to do, and he did have arms everywhere he went. Made sense to close the school.
In the small town of Burns, the nearest populated area, schools are closed all week. Residents growing weary. Police have turned the high school into a makeshift command center.
We got 40 or 50 guns, law enforcement, inside the building. We got 30 or 40 guys with masks on out in front of the building, in the middle of, forgive me, but my town. I'm thinking, what are we doing?
I'm 15 and I'm a freshman in high school. And
close your eyes.
go ahead, Ashley. Being here with all of this, honestly, it has scared me, and it shouldn't. I should not have to be scared in my own hometown.
People felt like it was dangerous because it was. There were the people who coalesced around this occupation. You had no idea who they were or why they were so heavily armed.
A lady at the grocery store one night just came up to me and said, you know what I hate about this the most? I keep wondering every time I see somebody if that's one of them. Never define them, but when we start worrying about who our neighbors are, that's an underlying fear that people shouldn't have to deal with.
It became almost a town versus ranch attitude. Some of those in the ranching community very quickly adopted the Bundy occupation as a moment in the sun.
I know some of these camera guys today were moving cows. They bothered me more than the Bundys did. The ranchers are a dying breed. I don't need the federal government, Washington, D.C. telling me how to run my cows and how to take care of grass and rangeland that they have never seen.
It's really nice to have somebody come in and say, I'm going to give you a face, I'm going to make people see your efforts, but this is not the way.
I agree, the Bundys need to go home now, but I don't think they need to be run out of town as idiots and crazies. I think Harney County, to a degree, owes them a thank you for taking a stand publicly that has needed to be made.
I wish I was a polished public speaker. I wish I was better at a lot of things. We've got some stuff to work through here. My goal is and has been from the beginning to find a peaceful resolution to this. There is an hourglass and it's running and time's gonna run out. So we need to work through this sooner than later. Please go home. Thank you.
I can tell you, I felt like I felt wronged when I saw people waving the American flag around and breaking the law at the same time, screaming that they were patriots. You know, I did serve in Afghanistan and I served in Somalia. I spent many years in an Army uniform. They absolutely stepped out to show themselves as that domestic threat that I did swear an oath to protect the people from.
We want to go home, but we can't leave too soon.
Your hourglass, okay? Your hourglass? I don't recognize your hourglass. We're on our timeline now, homie. Just don't forget about that.
Amen, brother. They're shaking in their boots. Look at that sheriff, trembling. I don't like speaking in public. You know what? If you're telling the truth and you're on the side of good, you won't tremble in fear when you get in front of the public, will you?
Pete Santelli set himself up as the press agent in the press department, largely because he's a true believer. And when you're one of very few people doing something that you think is right and proper, it's awful easy to get on a crusade.
How does this feel?
It feels good.
Isn't it a beautiful country up here?
Oh, it is, yeah.
You feel unsafe?
Yeah, I feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an unsafe environment.
There's nothing here to worry about that I can see.
But tell us who you are, where you came from.
Ron Aaron's and family. We're from Colorado. We're delivering some oatmeal. Show support for Ammon and the rest of the people here standing up to the government.
Delivering some oatmeal. Right there where that flag is. The number of people that are coming forward is overwhelming at this point in time, and it's a beautiful thing to see. All right?
What Pete was doing was giving people a front row seat, an unusual seat to this sort of an event.
Come in and sign our guest list and I'll kind of show you around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got water, games,
Oh my gosh, that's fudge. Is it? It is really, really good.
There was a freshman debate team camp-out atmosphere at times. People were bringing groceries in and out, driving back and forth from the Safeway with loads of Kool-Aid and Hot Pockets, sharing cigarettes and stories.
I'm here to help out. These guys gotta eat. I have a family. You know, I eventually gotta go back to my kids. But it's my duty right here to help out.
They're plumbers and pipe fitters and McDonald's workers and kind of all sorts, which was fascinating for me because who else cares about mineral rights in rural Oregon besides ranchers? But it wasn't about ranching. They are losing ground and real wages haven't risen and nobody can get real work. And then Ammon Bundy shows up and said, yes, you have been getting gaslit for most of your life, and I can help you fix it.
People weren't looking for answers. They were looking for a deeper immersion in anti-government militancy. When you're out of a job, when your 401k is crashed, the kids may not have shoes, but I am in the service of a larger good, that of American liberty. It's empowering for people who felt they were finally being listened to.
I don't understand why those people in town have closed their schools and are frightened. We're not frightened. They're cowboys. They're one of us.
That's what they are, yeah.
Look at all these fine people protecting me. Dwayne, look at Dwayne. He'd give his life for me. He'd give his life for me. He would too, and he would too. And I would take a bullet for him, but we're patriots. Now that I'm probably going to lose my pension and disability, I'm not worried about that because I'm living in the love of a good spirit and a common people.
It's fun. When you get out there and you meet other Americans who realize the country's going crazy, and you all sort of get together and there's a camaraderie. It's fun.
We're here. We're here. And the brush fires are free, and thanks to social media, and thanks to media, and just some freedom.
The takeover of the refuge was the driving energy. Returning the federal lands to the states became the next thing. But as things unfolded, I could not find anyone who actually knew what it was they were opposing. They were opposing an idea of federal control of land. And individuals, without recognizing that we had consented to governance at one point to solve specific problems which have overwhelmed other nations throughout history. And I think there was, in the same way that the Trump campaign has done, there was an emphasis on how terrible everything was, even while eating good food and carrying expensive weapons and driving fancy cars and trucks. I could not understand, given my experience in, say, Mexico or Central America, how these people could feel they were being tyrannized.
We're in the process of removing the surveillance cameras that have been put up.
Does that look like you? Surveillance cameras?
Look at that.
With no network.
There's the cameras.
This is United States federal government surveillance.
Wow.
Welcome to America.
Who's spying on us?
Your federal government.
Why are they doing that?
Because they serve the rich and elite class of this earth.
Woo!
We got a lot. Oh, we'll take it down again.
Take it down again.
Yeah, take it down again. We're here for, all right, I bet you we can go down there and circle around, and whoever's leading out, tell me where we're going in.
It's surreal to see that this occupation was simply unfolding, independent of any enforcement actions to stop it.
Public support wavering as the militia is skewered online. The hashtags Y'all-Qaeda and Vanilla ISIS picking up steam throughout the day. Some complaining that the lack of law enforcement presence is a sign of a double standard.
Did the world just start back in the 1860s when the first settlers came into this area? No.
The FBI, they know what's going on. They know that you have these largely white militias, and they're carrying heavy artillery. You cannot convince me that federal law enforcement would react the exact same way if you were dealing with some folks who are Black Lives Matter activists.
So it's day 10 here. We have not seen any kind of law enforcement come in and restrict what these men are doing.
You gotta wonder if the lights are on or anybody's home down there at the Justice Department. Hello?
I don't think there's anybody there.
Do you fear that this could turn into something serious enough that you would not be able to return to your family?
There's always that chance. Nobody, I'll tell you right now, though, nobody here will fire that first shot.
To dispel any notion about whether we are violent extremists or anything like that, I'd just simply like to tally up a few numbers. There have been no gunshot fatalities or injuries, no shots fired in anger, not even an accidental discharge. The only circumstance that any gunshots would be fired is if federals tried to root us out of here. They would find out then that we are not playing. We're not going to give an inch.
There have been 5 warrants issued for their arrest, for Ahmed's arrest, his brother's arrest, Lavoy Finnegan's arrest, and they don't plan to accept those warrants, and they don't plan to go quietly.
Right now, underneath that tarp right there, Lavoy Finnegan is sitting underneath that tarp, and he is not going to let them come through.
The world's going to know about what's going on here, right? You guys are the most beautiful patriots, okay? Most honorable patriots that I've ever known in my entire life. And we're going to make sure that they don't do any harm to you.
The occupiers kept having these false reports that the SWAT teams are coming. But I think there was an element that was looking to provoke something quite deadly.
So you're prepared to die. Better dead than in a cell.
Absolutely. Dude, would you like to be in a cell? Nobody wants to live their life in a cell. Absolutely, I'm not going to live my life in a cell.
It's going to be a late night, but there's plenty of time for sleep in the grave.
Some guys are like, listen, you gotta get the women and children out of here. This is a war zone. And I'm like, this is not a war zone. This is Oregon. We're in Oregon. This is a First Amendment thing. You're amping up fear that doesn't need to be there. And they end up yelling at me, telling me I'm naive and I've never been to war. And I'm like, this is, your mentality is completely wrong in Oregon.
Contact front! Contact front! Contact front! Contact front! You have a malfunction! You have a malfunction!
Get off the line of fire. How do you do that? Yeah, but what did I tell you about 3 points? Doesn't matter. Out of line of fire, grab, get control, take this, yank it off. Why do I do always this? Why do I do this? Why? Why do I teach you this?
So that we know for later.
Why do I teach you? Me, you this. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a husband. You will not get raped.
Get down! Who are you?
Down the ground.
It's either
Who are you?
in the ready or
Who are you?
it's in the ready to shoot position. That's it. Those are your 2 rifle positions, okay? Okay. That's it.
Get down on your knees. Get on your knees. Keep your hands up. Don't move your hands.
Not gonna win. Resisting.
Yield.
Puckett said he did not give you permission. Do you have anything to comment? He did not give you permission. He said to remove the fence.
Thank you.
Not all the ranchers are agreeing with you, right?
I have yet to find a rancher that has disagreed.
Is there any way? I haven't introduced myself. Are you guys going to driving down?
You could talk to Lavoy. Lavoy is the one kind of handling the media. I would love to talk to you, though.
Ammon got really paranoid about 3 weeks in, and the daily statements became very boilerplate. As long as they had somebody to talk to, they weren't going anywhere. And there was no next plan. There was no next step.
There's 712 people in the chat room right now.
What are they asking?
What are they asking?
People are wanting to know what the next big thing is or what's happening tomorrow. Is there any plans or?
Oh, you want to know our plans, huh? Freedom and stuff.
Freedom and stuff.
Do you think we'll end up in prison over this?
Not at all. Not at all. No.
No, there's no prison for this.
There's no prison for this. The government has two options, and that's lose or lose. So they get to decide how they lose. They can come in here and try to wax us like they've done over and over and over again, and I can tell you there's a nation that will not tolerate it. So the federal government can either start the second revolution, or they can concede and give up this land that they don't have jurisdiction over.
Right.
That's the only two options they got. They lose or they lose.
I'm saying I see the lights, but did they not look like you see flashing lights out there going down the road, Ryan? I'm telling you, those are fucking cop lights.
Everybody was sure that the federal government, who has not shown their hand yet, were just beyond the fire line. Wherever dark was, wherever you couldn't see, that's where the feds were waiting. I don't believe that any of those folk thought they were going to live that long.
We're a very small agency here. Patrol-wise for the sheriff's office, we had myself and 4 deputies. We knew we were going to need some help.
I'm sick and tired of this freaking crap. Who wants to join me out at the FBI compound at the airport? Who wants to join me?
We'll go.
Huh? You want to join me? Put a comment in the comment thread. You know what, you guys? It's time to let our fear go. It's time for us to stand shoulder to shoulder. And you know what? I'll stand there. FBI, you can bring your freaking guns and put a freaking bullet right here. Put a bullet right here. I'll take that first bullet, you disgusting, filthy, freaking... Oh my God. You pissed me off so bad. Fear and intimidation upon this community is intolerable. You filthy pigs. Let's surround it. I'm not afraid of you, FBI. You can't even kill what I got coming at you. You can't even kill it.
Come here at 2 o'clock. Has he shown up yet? Huh?
You have a couple of sheriff vehicles. I don't think the actual sheriff's here.
Okay, wait for the sheriff. Okay. And he's in my chain of command, so I can have you guys kicked out of here. So that's what I'm going to do.
Kicked out of here.
Pardon me?
We're not going to be kicked out of here.
Well, it's not my decision. It's going to be his.
It's not his decision either.
I'm sure
Oh,
it
it
is.
is.
Oh, it is. It is. You'll find out.
Okay.
You'll find out.
All right.
Okay?
Yep.
Be constitutional, dude. I'm going to tell you that right now. Be constitutional or pull the fucking trigger now. Okay? I'll pull the fucking trigger. Don't. What's that?
Not threatened.
It's not a threat. I said be constitutional. If you consider that to be a threat.
Be constitutional! And that's not a freaking threat! Yeah! Come talk to me. Don't be afraid of me. Okay, I said be constitutional. You found it to be a threat. Come look me in the eyes. All right, that wasn't a threat, Thunderhead. You fucking meathead.
Hey, Thunderhead, come up here. Come here. Come talk to me. Come here. You guys will? Pete Santilli.
Hey, I'm John. How are you?
Hey, John. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Likewise. Hey, man, what's
Hey,
your
guys,
name?
how are you?
Dallas?
You guys know what we're doing here, right?
Yes, sir.
Peaceful protest. If this guy shows up at that camp,
Every time you have to
it's going to be a disaster.
You're former military.
I am. I'm with the United States Marine, absolutely.
Marine Corps myself.
Yes, sir.
And one thing I would say, we've got a lot in common here, and we can resolve this. I mean, it can be resolved peacefully, and we're all Americans, and the First Amendment is a great way to resolve this.
Copy of the U.S. Constitution for your pocket.
Thank you. I'll stick
It's
it
a
right.
good read.
I'll put it in my pocket. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sir?
Yes, sir.
Can I get your card?
Semper Fi.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Come out and talk to him. Why is the sheriff not speaking to these people? Go out there, you can go get freaking soup in the kitchen.
You have his ears.
You can come and go freely.
want to talk to him.
No harm is going to come to you. You know that, right? Can I drive one of you guys out there?
Like I said, we pass that on. That you're
Can I will come personally. I will personally guarantee the safety of you and the sheriff. I'll drive you out there and have a cup of soup with you guys. It'll be resolved like that, okay? These are good patriots. Don't harm any one of them, okay? Please don't harm any one of them. Actually, I'm demanding that you don't harm any one of them. And that's not a threat. Please don't do that. I'm begging you. Does that sound like a fair demand? Don't harm anybody, right? Nobody will harm you. We don't want any harm to you guys. I want you to join us.
Thank you very much.
No Waco.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anytime you guys want to come by, man. Really, you can come by and talk to us. No problem, all right? All right.
It's time for everybody in this illegal occupation to move on. There doesn't have to be bloodshed in our community. We have issues with the way things are going in our government. We have a responsibility as citizens to act on those in an appropriate manner. We don't arm up. We don't arm up and rebel. We work through the appropriate channels. This can't happen anymore. This can't happen in America, and it can't happen in Hardin County. Thank you.
More than anything, I want to be with my family. I do not want to be up here having to deal with this. But if you do not spearhead this and take a stand, it's going to set a new precedent across the U.S. They get stronger and think they can continue to go around and bully we the people. But when we unite and you take that stand, there's no stopping us.
It was time to go home. They chose not to do that. I was willing to not charge them locally if we could find a peaceful resolution of the problem. What I couldn't make them any promises as far as federal charges. I'm very certain there are going to be consequences. You can't mount up an army, invade a small community, and take over federal buildings without expecting at least a timeout. So I think that the opportunities were there to go. The olive branch was offered. It was rejected.
are beginning to see an enhanced police and FBI presence all around the town of Burns and on the highways leading to and from the nature reserve. Checkpoints with Oregon State Police posted alongside them are being erected, and the question continues to be asked, what steps will law enforcement actually take to clear the refuge of what has now, again, been over 3 weeks of illegal militia presence here in Eastern Oregon?
Containment roadblocks are now in place. If the people on the refuge want to leave, they're free to do so. I want to share my promise to the citizens of this county, to the people who live here, who work here, who are raising their families here, that we will continue to look for safe, peaceful procedures and how to bring this to a peaceful conclusion.
Tyranny becomes law, then rebellion becomes necessity. And it has become necessity. We are tired of the tyranny of our overbearing, overstepping, and corrupt as hell government from the city officials all the way up. Mr. Obama, this one is for you. Yeah.
I see a day coming if we don't make that stand, that this right here, what was happening right here, will not be allowed. That the government is going to come up with a system of religion that will have to be followed on the air. You will be put in jail for that too. I see it coming unless we stand. And we, it's our choice.
My friends here are protected, Lord, from all sides, Lord, against the enemy seen and the unseen, Lord, and whatever you need to do.
We will not surrender.
Amen.
Victory is our only option to restore the Republic.
Amen. Amen. To the Republic. Amen.
They might not shoot if you got a camera.
Okay.
Hey, this is one camera that might keep us.
Doesn't matter. Everybody needs to get the fuck out.
They won't shoot with a camera.
Just
Remember Bundy.
You're done.
Remember
Get out.
Bundy.
You gotta see this town. This town looks like it looks like a FEMA camp down here. You guys have been down here, but they got cops everywhere. They're pulling people over. They're pulling little ladies over 2- and 3-car units. They're literally trying to show a use of force. All you guys be careful, right?
Yes, sir. You too.
Thanks, bro.
Hey, you bet, man. Talk later.
All right.
That's gonna be routine.
Well, we can't allow it to be routine.
Tower, this is Clooney. Call out the vehicles inbound.
2 vehicles on the main highway. Got 2 more vehicles coming in.
That gate. Can I get a radio check?
Don't be afraid to shoot the FBI, because they're not the good guys in this case. Yep, they're the evil ones. Nobody comes through that gate. They get shot, they come through that gate. I don't know how it's going to work, babe. But just pray to God.
I've been praying.
I've been praying too, sweetheart.
After the feds showed up, it occurred to them that this wasn't a game. They became aware that they needed a win. They needed a win.
They were certainly looking to export the message that they had used as their anchor to take over the refuge. And when they heard of a willing audience that would help legitimize their concerns, I think for them it was a no-brainer to go up to John Day.
Even the media interest had been falling away. And so they have to reinvigorate the spectacle with a classic run, for support.
Friday at 7, we will be going into town and holding a meeting with the community to explain to the community when we'll be leaving. Any questions before I go back?
Lavoy, if you're going into town, do you have concerns about your security, about family security?
I certainly hope not. I hope not. I hope not.
Most of the leadership of the occupation got in a convoy up to John Day, which was going to be about a 100-mile run from the refuge.
Law enforcement knew where they were going to be going. They had made no secret about it, and they were very public about their plans to go up to a meeting in Grant County. That's probably one of the best places that we could have ever come up with for attempting to take them into custody. A 60-mile stretch of vacant roadway with snowbanks on the sides. It makes sense that if you're going to attempt a traffic stop, to do it there without any chance of something going wrong and innocent bystanders being harmed. It should have gone peacefully, but, we have to live every day in a society around people where we depend on what's in the hearts of other people, on how our day ends.
You're definitely seeking martyrdom if you're taking off down that highway, armed, in the face of all those federal warrants. The kind of certitude that was professed there, it almost demands blood sacrifice to justify itself.
Come. I'm going to meet the sheriff. The sheriff is waiting for us. You want to shoot me? You shoot me.
What for? Why are we getting?
You want out?
What for? What are we getting out?
Who are you? Yeah, who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
Oregon State Police.
Okay.
Yeah, they got it. They know it. There's no service here at all.
Should never have stopped. Should never have stopped. I'm going to keep going.
Then we're gonna have to duck.
I know.
What are they gonna do with Ryan?
Okay.
If we take
Then
off,
you
where they
get
gonna
Ryan
shoot-
back.
Shoot your tires out.
I'm going to go. You guys ready?
Okay,
Get down.
Then you duck
Get
down.
down.
Give me that camera. Okay, give me this camera. Go. Got it. Are they shooting? Got it. Okay, they're shooting. Hang on. Okay, down.
Go ahead and shoot me.
Thank you. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Damn it. Are they shooting him? Did they shoot him? You assholes. Oh my God! Okay. Stay down.
Is he dead?
Don't get out.
I'm EMT! I'm EMT!
Stop it.
No!
Are you hit?
No, I'm EMT! Help him!
Oh, hold on. Hey, no shooting. Don't do anything. The door's shut. Where the hell is Lavoy? Is he on the...
I can't see.
Shut up. Stay down, Ryan.
Oh, God!
Stay down. Stay down.
Can we just surrender?
Okay, I don't know. Let's get out.
Okay!
That's you, Ryan. I don't know if you can get out. You get out first. Let her in first. Let her out first. You go first.
Please don't shoot me!
Okay, go.
Okay, I get out.
Okay, get out.
Okay!
No, shoot Ryan first. Now shoot you first, Ryan. Hands up.
The boy's dead.
Shit. Okay. Okay, go. Okay, hands up. Go.
The leaders of the armed occupation of the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge are now in custody.
One person's been confirmed killed after a shootout, and the leader of the armed group has been arrested along with 7 others.
Lavoy Finicum was reaching for a 9mm semi-automatic handgun when state troopers opened fire.
At the refuge, there are still some militia members there, but what their fate is going to be is still unclear.
Jason?
Yeah.
NBC, how you doing, Jason?
There was people who had fled. All the reasonable people, for lack of a better word, had been arrested. And at that point, fear had taken over.
Nice to meet you, man. Can we put this on you? I think we're all gonna want to talk to you. So say you'd spell your name again, sorry.
Jason Patrick, Jason Patrick.
Okay, and what's your role here, sir?
I'm an American.
With this organization and what's here, I don't know, is there a role, is there a title you have or a...
American.
Okay, yes, sir. What is your response to this? It's been a really terrible thing that's happened. What's your response to that, sir? I'm sorry that this happened. I know this is a terrible situation.
Peaceful resolution. And now a man is dead.
What do you want people to know?
That the government killed that man.
Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. So there's lights coming. You think it's them?
The holdouts knew that the Bundys had been arrested and that Lavoy Finicum had been killed. The Pied Piper's gone. The leadership is gone. There was no grand, heroic cowboy stand for individual liberty and the right of the people. And all of a sudden you find yourself bereft of all the things that you claim to be living your life for. And then your freedom. The Bundys are caught in a utopian urge. The militants saw a fantastical golden age of the cowboy when men were men and justice was served and the cows went to Abilene and were paid off in gold. And that simply isn't, I mean, it's really not true. But I think most of us have a fantastical golden age in our imagination.
I've been released to the custody of my mother, so I'm imposing on her here at her house and, trying to get some internet connections so I can go back to what I was doing where I study different things that are happening in the country and watching the news. And I got a mess of papers all over here on the floor. And this one I collected myself. It doesn't have anything to do with our case, but I found it really interesting. So that's 1967 when the Black Panthers were protesting inside the state capitol with firearms. Nobody got shot or anything like that. Now, since then, you can't do that, but, that is, it's basically some pissed off people trying to get their voice heard. They didn't have many rights and nobody was listening. So what'd they do? They carried their guns inside the state capitol and said, hey, y'all better listen, right? And good came of it. And can I say it was a direct result of that particular event? No, but that's the beginning of something.
I'd say there's about 25, 26 people down here. We've got most of our signs out. There might be a hung jury in this case, but we don't know that for sure. The jurors should be leaving any time. We're waiting on them to come out of the courthouse any moment, so.
Damage of property for Dwayne.
Jake, damage of property.
Damage of property, Jake.
Dwayne, not guilty, conspiracy.
Dwayne, not guilty, conspiracy.
Dwayne, not guilty.
Guilty, yes! Damaging property.
Not guilty, conspiracy.
And then I'm going to take my mom fishing. That's about it.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
How did the jury reach this surprising decision?
If you ask the jurors, they basically said the prosecution, they were sort of arrogant and sped through their case, and they failed to prove that there was a conspiracy to impede federal workers.
Jurors asked why couldn't the prosecution have brought criminal trespass or destruction of property, and they were told by the judge that some of the other charges would be misdemeanors and it wouldn't bring much significant penalties.
Ammon Bundy testified for 10 hours. The prosecution only cross-examined him for 15 minutes maximum. Didn't ask anything about Ammon Bundy's interpretations of the Constitution, or if he did, it was just poking fun at it.
It opened the door to the Bundys getting to talk about who they were and why they believed they were doing what they were doing, and that may have been very persuasive to the jury.
Yeah, I think that Oregon made a huge statement by saying this is a white utopia, and we're not changing that no time soon. 2016, I think they let a statement known to the world. This is Trump country all day. Trump country all day.
This case made it all the way through our court system. They were tried by a jury of their peers and found not guilty. That's our system, and I stand by it. This community is going to heal, and hopefully it's the last time we deal with anything on this scale.
I urge everybody to get in contact with your other patriots and mobilize and work together and go to your county commissioners meetings and your city meetings, all of it. Just show up, become involved.
Lavoy's time ended right here.
Yeah.
And his message stopped right here. And I think it's our duty to take that message and continue it down that road.
Yes,
after
sir.
those people that were
Yes,
willing to
sir.
listen.
Amen.
And down that road, and down that road, and down that road.
They think they've stopped us by using force. I think they've started it.
Yeah!
Yeah! You know, I think they just opened a can of worms.
We've allowed intellectually gated communities to thrive as never before. To select a social group of those who only agree with us. And then assemble a flash mob in some remote place where we will manifest our beliefs.
I think there's a responsibility for all Americans to do what I'm doing. I have absolutely no regrets at all. None. Zero.
If we choose to base our decisions on the echo chambers, on the rage radio fantasy, those places are highly unlikely to deliver us the outcomes that we desire. We can see it already. Leaders who harness the energy of our dissatisfactions, followed over the cliff of unreality, no plans. You cannot operate a democratic republic on fantasy. And if you get enough people who have lost faith in reality, enough to gamble, we all go over the cliff.
In this video, evidence will be presented showing that the murder of Lavoy Finicum by the FBI was premeditated. Evidence will be presented that will answer conclusively the question of why Lavoy did not stop at the roadblock, and determine with certainty whether or not Lavoy was attempting to stop or attempting to run the roadblock. It will be shown that many of the events that have been previously blamed on Lavoy and on the other occupants of the truck were in fact intentionally caused by the FBI and Oregon State Police for the purpose of justifying the killing of Lavoy. You will see an unmistakable and repeated pattern of the FBI and Oregon State Police doing everything in their power to provoke violence in order to justify the killing of Lavoy. This was an elaborately staged, premeditated murder by the FBI in which every detail was planned out. In the following clip, Shauna Cox, who took the cell phone video from within Lavoy's truck, describes the events of the first shot and how it led to Lavoy fleeing in his truck from the first stop.
And so Ryan Payne talks to Lavoy and said, "Look, dude, you need to kind of slow down. You better pull over because they're gaining up on us." So finally, reluctantly, Lavoy slows down and pulls over. And he didn't pull very far over because it's a snowy road. But he slows down and he stops, and Ryan Payne rolls down the window and he sticks both hands out the window and he yells back at I'm guessing whoever it was with the flashing lights, and he yells back at him. It hadn't been 2 seconds probably, and his hands are out, and a shot comes through and misses his hands. I thought it hit him, but it hit the mirror, the little thing between the mirror and the window, and so that was the first shot fired, and he yanked back in really fast, and he goes, "Wow, they're shooting at us." Well, it was unbelievable, and we're going, "Whoa, what?" And so Lavoy was going to go on. And when I looked up, and he has on the back of his head, he has a laser pointing on the top of his hat. There's a laser beam on his head. And he leans out in front of the mirror, out of the window, and he puts his hand out, and he has one on the steering wheel, and he yells back at them. And he says, "Then shoot me, because we're going to see the sheriff. We have a meeting with the sheriff and John Day, so just go ahead and shoot me if that's what you're going to do." Ryan said, "There's women in the truck." And he says, somebody from the back says, "Tell the women to get out. If they want to get out, tell them to get out." Lavoy says, "If you guys want out, then get out." Well, really my door was still locked. But Victoria was freaked out already because we had already seen a bullet, and she said, "I'm not getting out." When my mother instinct kicks in, and I said, "I'm not leaving her, so I guess we're here." And we slunk down, and he took off. So
he put his hands out the window because he was trying to talk to them. He was like, he wanted the guy to just, he was like, "I don't know if it's worth it." He's like, so he put his hands out the window, and he said, "We have women in the car, at least let the women get out." And he stuck his head out, and they shot at him, but they missed him, or he ducked just in time. So they didn't hit him, and then they're like, "Oh, they mean business. They're going to shoot us." And so Ryan decided to get out of the car and try to go talk to them.
The officers fired at Ryan Payne when Ryan Payne was attempting to talk with them. They said that they fired in order to get the occupants of the truck to comply. An unprovoked shot will not get people to comply. Victoria's response of wanting to stay in the truck is a natural response. Ryan's response of getting out of the truck after an unprovoked shot is not a normal response. So why did Ryan Payne get out of the truck after being shot at? Ryan Payne fits the profile of an agent provocateur almost exactly. He played a major role in turning the protest into an armed occupation, and was often trying to convince people to be willing to die for the cause. The unprovoked shot at Ryan Payne was very strategic and served several purposes for the FBI. This shot gave Ryan Payne a way to exit the truck before the real shooting started without revealing his real role as an agent provocateur. This shot also provoked the other people to stay in the truck, and it provoked Lavoy to flee. If the plan was to kill Lavoy at the roadblock, this shot was necessary to get Lavoy to flee. According to the officers' statements, they were planning more shots with gas rounds. They claimed it was to prevent Lavoy from driving off, but it is more logical to conclude that its purpose was to encourage Lavoy to drive off. When Lavoy flees from the first stop, Officer 4 pursues. Officer 4 speaks about his own speed and states, "I probably even hit close to 90. Since there is a roadblock just over a mile away, chasing Lavoy at high speeds is a bad decision. He is unlikely to overtake Lavoy since the roadblock is too close. Chasing Lavoy at high speeds would only encourage Lavoy to drive faster and create a dangerous situation at the roadblock. The real purpose of chasing Lavoy was to encourage Lavoy to drive faster in order to create a high-speed crash at the roadblock.
What about Ammon and those guys?
We can't get around them. I'm going to go get help.
Okay.
Stay down. I need
Stay
a phone
down.
so I can call as soon as I get service.
Wait up. Yeah, keep watching the phone, see if you get any service.
I don't have any.
I can't even get Joe Rice.
Coming up fast.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, I don't know about numbers.
Well, I got numbers, but I can't call because we have no service.
Okay.
No, mobile network not available.
Do you have numbers for people here in town?
The video has been stopped at the point where Lavoy's brake lights come on. As Lavoy's truck approaches the roadblock, 3 shots will be fired at his truck.
Yeah, but... Hang on!
Okay, they're shooting.
Hang on!
Okay, we're here.
This is the map view of the roadblock. Lavoy approached from the south. The roadblock was first visible here. It was first recognizable as a roadblock here. Lavoy began braking here. The roadblock was positioned here. Notice that the roadblock is positioned on the curve, making it dangerous. However, there is a straight stretch of road just beyond the roadblock. The FBI could have positioned the roadblock further down this straight stretch of road for a safer roadblock, but they chose the more dangerous location. This shows the 2 views of the road from the position of the roadblock. The photo on the left shows the view looking south in the direction that Lavoy approached. The photo on the right shows the view beyond the roadblock looking north. You can see that the southern approach to the roadblock is a dangerous blind curve, while the northern view shows a very visible straight stretch of road. This shows that there were safe positions for the roadblock that were easily available, but the FBI chose the dangerous position. It is not only the blind curve that makes this roadblock dangerous. This is the nearest speed limit sign before the curve, which shows a speed limit of 65 miles per hour. Many other blind curves in the area have a speed limit of 40 miles per hour. This is not only a blind curve, but the speed limit is higher. The curve has a significant downhill slope as it approaches the roadblock. This graph is from Google Earth, and it shows the elevation profile of the approach to the roadblock. The roadblock is first visible here. The roadblock is positioned here. Just after the roadblock is visible, the slope of the hill is more than a 10% downhill grade, according to Google Earth. In addition, just before the roadblock becomes visible, the slope changes suddenly from nearly flat to a steep downhill slope. These factors greatly increase the risk of a crash as a result of the position of this roadblock. This picture is a composite view of Lavoy's approach to the roadblock. This is the point where the roadblock first became visible. This is the point where Lavoy began applying his brakes. Looking backward from when Lavoy applied his brakes, if we assume a normal reaction time of 1 second, this is the point where Lavoy first recognized the roadblock. If we assume a reasonable but slower reaction time of 2.5 seconds, this is where Lavoy first recognized the roadblock. This is the position where the first shot was taken, this is the position where the second shot was taken, and this is the third shot position. This position is where the roadblock is first visible according to the major incident team. They seem to think that Lavoy had plenty of time to see the roadblock. In a few seconds I will show you a recreation of the view from near this point. See how long it takes you to recognize any hazards on the road. Here it is. You saw the view for the same amount of time as it took for Lavoy to recognize the roadblock. Did you recognize the roadblock? Here is a view from the point where Lavoy recognized the roadblock. Did you recognize the roadblock? Would you have slammed on your brakes? If you answered yes, then you have failed this simple test. There was no roadblock in these 2 views. They were a safe situation with trucks parked beside the road in a roadside pullout. This is a comparison of a safe situation on the left compared with a roadblock on the right. I have added a 3-foot snowbank to simulate the conditions that day. The snowbank combined with the curve makes it hard to tell the difference between a safe situation and a roadblock. Here is the same set of views without the snowbank. Now you can tell the difference between the safe situation and the roadblock. However, because of the curve, it is still difficult to recognize the difference. It is only when you see the roadblock unobstructed by the snowbank and without the distortion of the curve that it is clearly recognizable. This is two views from the point where Lavoy recognized the roadblock. The safe situation is on the left and the roadblock is on the right. It is at this point that the difference is becoming noticeable and the roadblock is recognizable. Here is the same set of views without the snowbank. Now we will look at the Oregon Department of Transportation Highway Design Manual. To determine when Lavoy should have been able to recognize the roadblock, we need to understand the stopping sight distance. Stopping sight distance is the minimum distance required for a vehicle traveling at a particular design speed to come to a complete stop after an obstacle on the road becomes visible. Stopping sight distance is normally sufficient to allow an alert and prudent driver to come to a hurried stop under normal circumstances. Stopping sight distance is measured from the driver's eye to an object 2 feet above the roadway surface. For the stopping sight distance, the driver must be able to see an object 2 feet off the ground. There is a 3-foot snowbank along the road. This means that the stopping sight distance must be measured at the first point where the snowbank does not block the vision of the roadblock. This snowbank here is what would block the vision of the roadblock. Also note that if this is a 3-foot snowbank, then the snowbank here is clearly greater than 3 feet, and this is where it matters most. A green dotted line has been placed on the boundary of where the snowbank would obscure vision of the roadblock. It goes from the center of the roadblock and through the snowbank. When a driver reaches this line, they can see that at least one truck is blocking the road ahead. I am calling this the point where the roadblock is recognizable, and this is the point where the stopping sight distance should be measured. The distance from the roadblock is 470 feet. This is the point where Lavoy applied his brakes. This is the point where he recognized the roadblock if you assume he was alert with the reaction time of 1 second. This is the point where he recognized the roadblock if you assume he was less alert with a reaction time of 2.5 seconds. Anywhere in between these is a reasonable reaction time. The point where the roadblock is recognizable falls within this range. This means that the point where Lavoy recognized the roadblock was within the expected range for a normal driver. This also means that Lavoy began braking at the expected time for a normal driver. According to the Highway Design Manual, the stopping sight distance for 65 miles per hour is 645 feet. Since this is greater than the 470 feet measured, this means that the roadblock does not meet the recommended design specs from the Highway Design Manual. This roadblock was not designed to be safe. Furthermore, the point where Lavoy recognized the roadblock is at the expected location based upon the stopping sight distance. Lavoy was not at fault for not braking earlier. The designers of the roadblock were responsible. At this point, Lavoy is about to begin braking. Pay attention to the brake lights on the truck. You will see that once Lavoy's brake lights come on, they stay on the entire time. Now I will answer the following questions. Why did Lavoy fail to stop at the Lavoy Lavoy's truck was created? This was done using an image tracking program that was created for this type of analysis. By using a computer cross-correlation tracking method, the motion of Lavoy's truck was tracked relative to the video image. Multiple objects on the ground were also tracked to get the motion of the ground relative. By combining these two measurements, the motion. This is the point at which Lavoy's brake lights first came on. This is the point at which Lavoy's truck first entered the snow. The steep slope of the graph here is due to the truck quickly stopping in the snow. This point here is near where Lavoy first recognized the roadblock. At this point it appears that Lavoy took his foot off of the gas. This delay of about 1 second between where Lavoy recognized the roadblock and where he first began applying his brakes is consistent with the normal reaction time of an alert driver. The part of the graph that we are most concerned with is after Lavoy first applied the brakes and before he entered the snow. Initially, this downward slope indicates that Lavoy began braking. However, at this point, he paused his braking. At this point, the downward slope of the graph indicates that he began braking again. At this point, Lavoy paused his braking again before entering the snow. I have superimposed my interpretation of the graph, showing in yellow the times when Lavoy was braking, and in blue the times when Lavoy paused his braking. At first, Lavoy brakes for about 1 second and then pauses. The second braking is minimal. The third braking event is the strongest. During the pauses, there is no substantial deceleration. Within the span of about 3 seconds. Was Lavoy indecisive on whether to brake or not, or was something interfering with his ability to brake? Now we will look at this first braking event more closely. If Lavoy had continued braking at this rate, he would have been able to stop in 407 feet. The typical emergency stopping distance for 70 miles per hour is listed as 375 feet for dry pavement and 686 feet for wet pavement. Although there is visible water on the road in several locations, Lavoy is stopping at a rate more consistent with dry pavement. The slope of the braking stopping distance if the coefficient of friction is 0.4 sup. This line represents a vehicle stopping at the minimum stopping distance, assuming a coefficient of friction of 0.5. It's a vehicle stopping at the minimum stopping distance, assuming a coefficient of friction of 0.4. This would be a reasonable graph for wet pavement. Lavoy's braking fits within these lines and is completely consistent. Now we will look at the third braking event. This line represents a vehicle stopping at the minimum stopping distance, assuming a coefficient of friction of 0.5. This would be a reasonable graph for dry pavement. Again, Lavoy is attempting to stop as quickly as possible. Driver stopping as quickly as possible. Lavoy failed to stop because he did not continue braking. The question that must be answered now is why Lavoy did not continue braking. In order to explain the unusual pauses in braking, more events have been added to the graph. Here the timing of shots as heard on the video from the truck cab have been added. At Lavoy, there is a pause in braking. Lavoy was surprised by the shots. In addition to being startled, it is a natural response to pull inward in response to a shot. However, braking requires extending the leg. A pause in the braking graph is what would be expected as a result of the shots. The data is clear. It shows that Lavoy was attempting to stop. The reason that Lavoy failed to stop was that the 3 shots fired at him disrupted his braking and prevented him from stopping in time. There was a skid mark on the road found by the major incident team. It is shown here in their report. The hardest. This also confirms that at this time he was braking as hard as possible and consistent with the minimum stopping distance. I have also placed the point where Lavoy's truck begins turning towards the snow. This will be important for determining what Lavoy's intentions were as he swerved and decided if Lavoy was attempting to run the roadblock, he should have begun accelerating at the point he began turning towards the snow or soon after. Curve if Lavoy had decided to run the roadblock. At the point that Lavoy would have needed to accelerate, he was stopping as quickly as possible and even left a skid mark. Lavoy's actions were exactly opposite to what he would have done if he were trying to run the roadblock. The data could not be any clearer. Lavoy was attempting to stop the entire time. Lavoy never attempted to run the roadblock. Now the events inside the truck cab will be shown to be consistent with the speed graph. Along with the cab view, a graph representing deceleration will be shown on the right. It measures deceleration in feet per second squared. The event is labeled in the yellow bar to represent the events on the graph. The labels correspond to the events on the speed graph as 1, 2, 3, and snow braking. The entire graph will flash red to signify the timing of the shots. First, the video segment will be shown at normal speed. You should notice that Ryan's shoulder is pushed up against the seat in front of him on the first and third braking events. The third braking event is short, and Ryan actually bounces off the seat in front of him.
People here in town?
Yeah, but... Hang on!
Okay, they're shooting.
Hang on!
Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me!
The events are hard to follow at normal speed. Here it is again at 25% speed. Now it will be shown at 10% normal speed. You should be able to see Ryan bounce off the seat in front on the third event. You might also notice that after the first shot, Ryan begins to duck at the same time that Lavoy pauses his braking, showing that Lavoy pausing his braking is a normal response to the shot, as is ducking. The events inside the truck cab are consistent with the speed graph, and all of the major events on the speed graph show visible effects in the cab view video. This is verification that the speed graph and its interpretation are correct. The officer's stated intent of stopping the vehicle by shooting at it is impossible in this situation. Because of the close distance and because Lavoy's truck is already headed towards the roadblock, the only way to stop it before crashing into the roadblock is either with the brakes or the steering. The most likely result of shooting at Lavoy's vehicle is to prevent it from stopping, and according to the data, that is what actually happened. Lavoy began stopping at the expected position and began stopping at the expected rate for a normal driver. The fact that Lavoy failed to stop was primarily due to the dangerous placement of the roadblock and shooting at Lavoy as he attempted to stop. Now we will look at the 2 shots fired at Lavoy as he exits the truck. No one, not even the major incident team, has attempted to justify these shots as reasonable. These shots are consistent with trying to provoke Lavoy in order to justify killing Lavoy. These shots are believed to be fired by the FBI, but they were not revealed by the FBI. The major incident team discovered these shots. Even Sheriff Nelson seems quite upset with the FBI for not revealing these shots. These shots are consistent with premeditated murder and completely inconsistent with the official story.
Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me.
Damn! Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me.
Damn! Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me.
Damn!
This FBI agent is kneeling in the snow and is armed with foam bullets. As soon as Lavoy becomes visible to him, he will fire a foam bullet hitting Lavoy in the left side of his chest. The FBI agent will immediately run away. The purpose of this shot is to cause Lavoy to reach for the wound, which will appear on the video as if he is reaching for a gun. This will be the final justification for killing Lavoy.
Stay down, stay down, stay down.
Lavoy has now lowered his arms in response to being shot with a foam bullet, and the FBI agent runs away because it is important that this shot is not discovered. This shot by itself is enough to prove premeditated murder. I have devoted an entire video to this shot and the evidence for it. For the purpose of this video, I will assume this shot is established as fact. This shot was not revealed by the FBI or the major incident team. Here is the foam bullet shot again at a slower speed. Now you will see the foam bullet shot followed by the 3 shots in the back that kill Lavoy. All previous shots, as well as the position of the roadblock, were designed to set up the situation that would justify these shots.
Stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down. Damn it, are they shooting him? Did they shoot him? You assholes. Oh my God! Okay. Stay down.
After Mr. Finicum was shot, numerous gas projectiles and flashbangs were deployed to get the remaining occupants of the truck, Ryan Bundy, Shauna Cox, and Victoria Sharp, to surrender peacefully.
In the interview with Officer 1 after Lavoy has been killed, Officer 1 describes how they dealt with the remaining occupants of the truck. He states that they were attempting to get the rest of the people in the vehicle to comply and take them into custody. Further down, he describes multiple diversions to try to distract the people that were in the vehicle and try to get them to comply with the verbal commands that I was hearing being yelled. Later, Officer 1 states, "I knew the multi-launcher would have orange tips, meaning that they would contain OCCS chemical agents in them, and that they were going to deploy those rounds into the truck as minutes had lapsed and the occupants in the truck were not complying with commands. They were not exiting the truck within a reasonable amount of time whatsoever. There was no reason they couldn't have exited the truck and complied with the commands. Gas was deployed into the truck. There was still a period of time where they were not coming out." In the interview with Officer 4, Officer 4 states, after Finicum went down, shortly after that, there's some flashbangs going off around the area. Near Finicum's truck, there was really no response from anybody inside or anything like that. Later, Officer 4 states, Some chemical agent starts getting introduced in the vehicle. I mean, it seems like it had no effect. Then some more got introduced in the vehicle. More, a little bit later on, more kind of rapid, a succession. And later he states, so it didn't really seem like it had a real big effect on occupants left inside. In the interview with Officer 7, when asked about the effect of the chemical rounds fired in the truck, Officer 7 stated, I don't know what effect it had initially on the people inside. The intent was just to introduce that powder into the cab and try and get them to come out. Later, he states, I recall the general commands I kept hearing were, let me see your hands, step out of the vehicle. But I can't tell you who was saying it or what. I mean, it was being yelled by multiple people all around me. Here is a summary of the statements made by the 3 officers. Next, you will see the video from inside the cab during the time after Lavoy was killed. You should try to answer the following questions as you watch this. What are the commands that are given? Why are the occupants of the truck not responding? Why are the occupants of the truck not obeying commands?
Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Damn it. Are they shooting him? Did they shoot him? You assholes. Oh my God! Hold still. Stay down.
Is
he dead? Don't get out.
I am dead!
Still, Ryan? Where did you get hit? Still.
I'm not bleeding.
Okay, don't shoot us.
Where did you get hit, Ryan?
I'm okay.
Okay. I'm going to take some.
It's okay.
I'm taking some. No, I can't hear anything. Stop! I don't dare get out because they'll shoot me.
I know.
Okay.
I don't like hunkering down here either.
Me either, but I don't know what to do because
I don't know.
they keep shooting lasers at us.
Get too stinking lax. Think things are just all dandy and fine. We got too damn lax.
Yeah. Damn, why do they keep shooting?
I'm trying to take my head off. I was looking through.
I know, but all of us. Stop! 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 Please! Stop! Yes. That's ridiculous. Because you're stupid. They're going to kill all of us? Father, please. Protect.
Those were gas rounds.
Yeah, they are. They're cover up your nose quick. Can we get out? Do we get out?
No, don't get out.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Okay. Okay. God. Okay. God. Please keep
Okay,
okay, they got lasers still on us.
They got lasers still on us. Lavoy got out. I think they've killed Lavoy. They just shot gas rounds into the car. We're hunkered down in here trying not to be shot.
He's shooting. That's the window. He's shooting at the window.
Shooting more gas rounds. The gas is getting pretty thick in here.
You got nothing to do. God, please.
Anyway.
You didn't get out. I don't dare get out. Will they shoot me?
Yeah, they'll shoot you.
How am I gonna get out? If I get...
Anyway.
Can we put a white flag out?
Yeah, I would put a flag out. Let's put a flag out.
Do you have a white flag? Yep.
I'm not sure what they got. What you got?
There's a laser shooting right over here around this.
Okay. The gas dissipates.
He's trying to break this window. He's trying to break the window I'm at.
Okay. This on the way to John Day. And now they're shooting into our vehicle. And we're hunkered down. We do not have phone service at this location.
I surrender! Can we just surrender?
Okay, open the left door. Let's get out.
Okay!
That's you. Well, see, you're supposed to...
The truck immediately responded and immediately complied. All OC rounds were used before the first command was given. Every single shot fired at the occupants of the truck is consistent with the FBI attempting to escalate the situation and provoke violence in a way that can later be blamed on the occupants of the truck. In fact, the 3 officers have been caught trying to blame the occupants of the truck for actions that the FBI and Oregon State Police created. When Victoria wanted to get out of the truck to help Lavoy, this would have been a perfect opportunity for the officers to end the situation peacefully. Victoria wanted to help Lavoy. She wanted out of the truck and she tried to communicate. The response to the door opening was 2 immediate shots. No one from the FBI attempted to start a dialogue with Victoria. The 2 shots send a message. The message is, if you try to get out of the truck, the FBI will kill you. And do not attempt to communicate with the FBI.
I can't
Is he
get out.
dead? Don't get out. I'm EMT! Stop it.
Are you hit?
No, I'm EMT! No, hold on, don't do anything. No shooting. Don't do anything. The door's shut.
This next video segment demonstrates the FBI's attitude very well, and what their intent is. Shauna's and Victoria's attempt to communicate is met with a barrage of gunfire. The obvious message from the FBI is that they do not want any attempts to communicate, and that they are trying to convince the remaining occupants of the truck that they will all be killed.
Stop! 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 Please! Stop! Yes. Stop! That's ridiculous. Because you're stupid. I can kill all of us?
In this next video segment, Since all of their attempts to communicate with the FBI have been met with either silence or gunfire, Victoria is being more creative in finding ways to communicate. This shows that the occupants of the truck are doing everything in their power to communicate.
Can we put a white flag out?
Yeah, I would put a flag out. Let's put a flag out.
Do you have a white flag?
In this next video segment, notice that the behavior of the FBI has radically changed. Now they are giving commands and the occupants of the truck comply immediately. The FBI's original plan was to remove the option of communicating and exiting the truck peacefully. They wanted the occupants of the truck to believe that their only option was to fight back. This would give the FBI justification for killing everyone. This plan failed because the occupants of the truck were clearly prepared to die before fighting back, even though they had guns in the truck. Because the occupants of the truck did not fight back as the FBI wanted, the FBI had to cancel their plans to kill them all, and now they are trying to act like real policemen. The commands now are clearly heard. This shows that the only reason that commands were not heard before is that either no commands were given or that they were not intended to be heard.
I surrender! Can we just surrender?
Okay, open the left door. Let's get out.
Okay!
That's you, Ryan. I don't know if you can get out. You get out first. Let her in first. Let her out first. You go first. You go first.
Please don't shoot me!
Go. Go.
Okay, I get out.
Okay, get out.
Okay!
No, he'll shoot Ryan first. He'll shoot you first, Ryan. Hands up. Hands up.
Lavoy's dead.
Shit. Okay. Okay, go. Okay, hands up. Okay, go.
There is an important pattern of escalating the violence that is seen in nearly every action made by the FBI and Oregon State Police. An officer will make an action that escalates the violence. The officer will blame the escalated violence on the victim and use it to justify more violence. The officer's excuse, if given, will be illogical and opposite to the logical result of the action. A specific subpattern of the previous pattern also occurs frequently, where the officer shoots at those who try to comply with the FBI. When a person tries to comply with commands, an officer shoots at them, preventing them from complying. The officer then uses the failure to comply with commands to justify more violence. Here is the justification for the shot at Ryan Payne at the first stop.
The Oregon State Police fired one less lethal OC round at the truck to gain compliance.
The occupants of the truck did not comply because of the shot, and Lavoy fled because of the shot. Here is the justification for the 3 shots at Lavoy as he was stopping at the roadblock.
An Oregon State Police trooper who was standing at the roadblock fired 3 shots into the truck in an attempt to stop it.
Lavoy was stopping before he was shot at. Lavoy was unable to stop because of the 3 shots. Here is the justification for 5 minutes of shooting at the remaining occupants of the truck.
After Mr. Finicum was shot, numerous gas projectiles and flashbangs were deployed to get the remaining occupants of the truck, Ryan Bundy, Shauna Cox, and Victoria Sharp, to surrender peacefully.
The occupants of the truck tried to surrender peacefully just after Lavoy was shot. They were unable to surrender because of the numerous shots fired at them. All of these shots both escalated the violence and prevented compliance. All of these shots created the exact situation that the officers claimed they were trying to prevent. The results were logical. The excuses are not logical. There was no legitimate purpose for the first stop since there was a roadblock up ahead. The first stop merely created the opportunity to create a high-speed chase into the roadblock. When Ryan Payne was attempting to talk about how to get people out of the truck, the officers fired at him, claiming that they were trying to get people to comply. When Lavoy made the logical response to an unprovoked shot and fled, the officers used this as justification for more violence. An officer chased Lavoy at high speeds even though he knew that there was a roadblock just over a mile ahead. and that the logical result would be a high-speed crash at the roadblock. The roadblock was set on a high-speed blind curve. The logical result is that Lavoy would have difficulty stopping. This was used to justify firing at Lavoy, even though at the time of the first shot, Lavoy was stopping as quickly as possible. The shots then prevented Lavoy from stopping. The result that was caused by the shots was used as justification for the shots. The FBI tried to hide the 2 shots fired at Lavoy when his hands were clearly up and he was exiting the truck. The FBI tried to hide the foam bullet shot that caused Lavoy to reach for the wound. Its purpose was to justify the kill shots. When Lavoy reached for the wound from the foam bullet shot, 3 shots were fired, killing Lavoy. The justification was the reach, which was caused by the earlier foam bullet shot. When Victoria tried to exit the truck peacefully, the officers immediately fired at her, forcing her to stay in the truck, and then used the fact that no one exited the truck to justify more shooting. When Shauna and Victoria tried to communicate with the FBI, 6 shots were immediately fired at them, ending their communication attempt. The officers then claimed that there was no response from the occupants of the truck and used this to justify more shooting. The officers did not give any commands that could be heard for over 5 minutes, and then claimed that they fired on the truck occupants because no one responded to commands. Notice that this pattern of making actions that escalate the violence and using the result as justification for more violence has been shown for every single shot fired, both lethal and non-lethal bullets. This pattern has also been shown for every single major decision made, especially the positioning of the roadblock. When taken in context, every single one of these actions is inconsistent with the official story, and every single one of these actions is consistent with premeditated murder by the FBI. Now we will take a more detailed look at the pattern of shooting to prevent compliance. When someone attempts to comply with the FBI, an officer will shoot at that person, preventing them from complying. The officer then uses the failure to comply to justify more violence. In the following table, all significant attempts at compliance by Lavoy or the other occupants of the truck will be listed up until the final commands for the remaining occupants to exit the truck. When Ryan Payne attempted to talk with the FBI, 1 immediate shot was fired at him. When Lavoy attempted to stop at the roadblock, his hands up, a foam bullet was fired, striking Lavoy in the chest, causing him to reach for the wound. When Victoria attempted to communicate with the FBI and to exit the truck peacefully, 2 immediate shots were fired, forcing Victoria to stay in the truck. When Shauna and Victoria attempted to communicate with the FBI, 6 immediate shots were fired, ending their attempt to communicate. Every time that someone attempted to comply with the FBI, the response was immediate shots fired at the person attempting to comply. Each time that the shots prevented compliance, the failure to comply was then used to justify more violence. Not only did every action by the FBI escalate the violence, but they shot at every person who attempted to reduce the violence. This behavior is consistent with premeditated murder. In conclusion, Lavoy was encouraged to flee the first stop by the FBI shooting at Ryan Payne, and more shots were planned if Lavoy had not fled. The roadblock was placed in the most dangerous place available, with the expected result of causing a high-speed crash. The position of the roadblock by itself is enough to prove premeditated murder. Lavoy attempted to stop at the roadblock, and he began stopping at a reasonable position and at a reasonable rate. The reason that Lavoy failed to stop was the dangerous placement of the roadblock and the 3 shots fired at him as he approached the road. He reached for a wound from a foam bullet shot that was not revealed by the FBI. All of the major decisions made by the FBI fit the pattern of escalating violence. With the exception of the final surrender, all attempts at compliance by Lavoy or the other occupants of the truck were met with a response of shots fired at the person attempting to comply. The evidence is clear and the conclusion is certain. The murder of Lavoy Finicum by the FBI was premeditated. In this video, evidence will be premeditated. Left side of his chest, where it causing him to reach for the wound. The FBI agent fired this bullet for the purpose of making Lavoy reach in a way that would appear as if he was reaching for a gun, which would then justify the killing of Lavoy. The evidence will also show that these actions were premeditated and that they must have been planned by the FBI organizers of this operation. Red lines have been added to indicate shots fired. All shots were fired either by the FBI or the Oregon State Police. No shots were fired by Lavoy or the occupants of Lavoy's truck. The shot annotations were intended to be consistent with the Tri-County Major Incident Team analysis. However, one additional shot has been included that they did not reveal, and the evidence for this shot will be presented. Originally, Lavoy stopped when the FBI pulled him over. During this time, the FBI fired an unprovoked shot at Ryan Payne, who was in Lavoy's truck at the time. As a result of this shot, Lavoy decided to flee in his truck.
What about Ammon and those guys?
We can't get around them. I'm going to go get help.
Okay.
Stay down.
Stay down.
I need
Stay
a phone
down.
so I can call as soon as I get service.
Wait up. Yeah, keep watching the phone, see if you get any service.
I don't have my
I can't even get Joe Rice.
Coming up fast.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, I don't know about numbers.
Well, I got numbers, but I can't call because we have no service.
Okay.
No.
The roadblock is set up around a blind curve with a speed limit of 65 miles per hour, and that there is a significant downhill slope on this curve, and there is a 3-foot snowbank blocking the vision of the road ahead. All of these factors make the roadblock difficult to recognize and make it difficult to stop in time. It is very unusual to find conditions such as these to make a maximally deadly roadblock. Had the FBI moved the roadblock further down the road, it would have been easier to spot and easier to stop and much safer. The placement of the roadblock is designed to create a situation where Lavoy crashes into the roadblock, which can justify the killing of Lavoy. As Lavoy approaches the roadblock, notice that 3 shots are fired at his truck. There is no possible way that these 3 shots could stop the truck or make the situation safer for anyone, since at this time Lavoy is attempting to slow down as seen by his brake lights. These shots are fired to prevent Lavoy from being able to stop and to provoke a violent confrontation in order to justify killing Lavoy.
Yeah, but... Hang on!
Okay. They're shooting.
Hang on!
Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me!
Upon twice. His hands remain up. These shots were an attempt to provoke Lavoy to some action that might justify killing him. At this point, Lavoy has been fired upon 6 times. Every shot fits with a pattern of trying to provoke a situation that will justify killing Lavoy. Although the previous 6 shots and the dangerous placement of the barricade indicate premeditated murder by themselves, the events in the next few seconds are the focus of this video, and these are the most important events to show that the murder of Lavoy was premeditated. First, look at the actions of Lavoy as he leaves the truck. Notice that Lavoy is walking with a steady gait away from the truck. Lavoy keeps his hands up consistently even when If he intended to fight, he would not do this. Instead, he would have pulled his weapon earlier and used the truck as cover. I have stopped the video at the time of the foam bullet shot. Now watch the change in motion of Lavoy after the foam bullet shot. He looks confused, he limps, he lurches forward, he is spinning around and not walking straight, and his arms come down and go up several times. The character of Lavoy's motion has changed dramatically at this point. Something must have happened to explain this. Now we will examine the actions of this FBI agent who is kneeling in the snow with his gun aimed at Lavoy. For now I will assume that this FBI agent has not taken a shot and show that this leads to absurd conclusions. This FBI agent is not sighting his gun with the physical sight. He is kneeling and shooting from the hip. Although this makes it much harder to see that he is aiming his gun at Lavoy, this can be verified. This is very unusual since he has had time to prepare. This FBI agent uses cover in an unusual way. This FBI agent has positioned himself so that the black truck is between himself and the video camera. This FBI agent has not used the truck to protect himself from Lavoy. As soon as this FBI agent sees Lavoy reaching, this FBI agent turns away quickly. This is the opposite of what he should do in this situation. Would you turn your back on a man who has already been shot at 6 times and might be reaching for a gun? This FBI agent didn't think that Lavoy was reaching for a gun, and he bet his life on it. Lavoy has not been disarmed or secured, and this FBI agent turns away at the crucial moment, putting his fellow officers in danger. This FBI agent was waiting for Lavoy to come into view. Within 1 second of Lavoy coming into his view, he turns and walks away. This makes no sense. Lavoy is now visible. The FBI agent turns away. Here is the same segment at normal speed. Lavoy is now visible. The FBI agent turns away. As this FBI agent turns away, he is crouching, apparently hiding from something, but he is not hiding from Lavoy. His back is fully exposed to Lavoy, and this FBI agent does not seek cover from Lavoy, although cover is easily available behind any of the trucks. While Lavoy is being killed, this FBI agent crouches in front of the white FBI truck. He is still exposed to Lavoy, even though cover is only 1 step away. Immediately after Lavoy is killed, this FBI agent gets up and aims his gun at Lavoy's truck. Now this FBI agent uses a normal shooting posture. When it is assumed that Lavoy was reaching for a gun, the actions of this FBI agent appear to be insane. Nothing that he has done makes sense. A theory that interprets this FBI agent's actions as insane cannot be correct. We need to look for another explanation. If we assume different motives for this FBI agent, all of these events and more will be easily explained. This FBI agent is armed with foam bullets, and his job is to shoot Lavoy in the area where Lavoy carries a gun. The purpose is to get Lavoy to reach for the wound, which will appear on the video as reaching for a gun, and the FBI will be able to justify the killing of Lavoy. This FBI agent must get his shot quickly, and he must get away quickly without being noticed on the video. This FBI agent cannot allow this shot to be detected, because it would prove that the killing of Lavoy was intentional and premeditated. It is the intent to be more afraid of the camera than of Lavoy. It predicts it even these things are found, it will be strong evidence for the theory. In addition, many events that up to now have had no explanation at all from any theory will be shown to have an explanation from this foam bullet theory. This FBI agent is hiding the fact that he is shooting. He is shooting from the hip, probably using a laser sight. This FBI agent is using the truck as cover to hide from the camera. He is not using the truck as cover from Lavoy. The fact that the truck fails to hide him from the camera is only due to the high angle of the camera at this instant, defeating his attempt to hide. This FBI agent shoots as soon as Lavoy is visible to him. He needs to get his shot as soon as possible. Lavoy becomes visible now. The FBI shoots now. The camera zoom is at the exact time when Lavoy comes into the view of the FBI agent. Did the camera operator know the plan and coordinate the timing of the zoom? Zooming at this exact time makes the foam bullet shot out of focus, but it enhances the vision of Lavoy reaching. If this is a coincidence, then it is a precisely timed and well-planned coincidence. Lavoy becomes visible now. The FBI shoots now. Here is the same segment at normal speed.
Trying to. Stay down, stay down, stay down.
There is a moment of motionlessness followed by a rapid relaxation of his body, indicating that this FBI agent has just taken a shot.
Stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down, stay down.
Lavoy reaches for the area where he has been shot.
Stay down, stay down.
Lavoy reaches with both hands equally as if reaching for a wound, not with one hand as if reaching for a gun.
Stay down, stay down, stay down.
Lavoy reaches down and then immediately puts his hands back up, consistent with fighting the involuntary response to reach for the wound, but not consistent with reaching for a gun. After the shot, Lavoy suddenly develops a very distinct limp, as if his left leg, or possibly the left side of his body, is injured. Lavoy is clearly injured, but not as severely as one would expect from a real bullet, possibly indicating that a foam bullet was used. Each time that Lavoy tries to lift and move his left leg, he also reaches down. This indicates that the wound may be in his torso rather than his leg, and also that each reach is due to the wound from the initial foam bullet. If the injury is near where Lavoy carries a gun, it would be in the rib cage on his left side. This would make it very hard to hold up his hands, especially when lifting and moving his left leg. This matches the motion that we see from Lavoy. The FBI knows that it is very unlikely that anything would be found in the autopsy to reveal this wound. First of all, since Lavoy dies within seconds of this shot, bruising would not have time to form since his heart stops seconds later. Second, there is a lot of damage to the torso from real bullets, which could hide the superficial wound of a foam bullet. Now we will look at the autopsy report. This superficial abrasion is about the size of a bullet and is listed under number 2 gunshot wound of the neck and upper chest. The abrasion is near the gunshot exit, but it is not explained by the gunshot exit wound. This seems consistent with the type of injury expected from the foam bullet. The location of this wound also matches where Lavoy carries his gun. This diagram shows the approximate position of the gunshot exit wound, as well as the wound that I am interpreting as the foam bullet abrasion. The FBI special agent in charge for Oregon FBI will show us where Lavoy carries his gun.
On multiple occasions, Mr. Finicum was observed wearing a shoulder holster on the left side where he carried a sidearm.
The location and character of the wound in the autopsy and the location where Lavoy carries his gun are an exact match to the foam bullet theory. Lavoy's speech is disrupted during the shot. The shot occurs in the place that is labeled as inaudible in the audio transcript according to the Deschutes County Sheriff's Office, although they do not list a shot there. Lavoy's speech after the shot is not as clear as before the shot.
Go ahead and shoot me!
Jim! Trying to. Stay down, stay down. Did I shoot him? You asshole.
The shot can be clearly heard on the video. The sound is muffled because of its position behind the truck. Because of this, the sound has no direct path to the truck cab where the sound is being recorded and is reflected off the trees and landscape.
Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down.
This is the officer's statements from the Major Incident Team report. Officer Force states that he can tell a less lethal shot by its sound. Here I will compare the sound of the foam bullet shot to Lavoy with the sound of shots using lethal bullets. Here is the foam bullet shot to Lavoy.
Stay down.
Here are several shots using lethal bullets. Now we will compare the sound of the foam bullet shot to Lavoy with other less lethal shots. The less lethal shots also have the sound of the bullet hitting the truck. Try to recognize the underlying sound of the shot. Here is the foam bullet shot to Lavoy.
Stay down.
Here are the less lethal shots.
Shit. Keep down. Up. Yes. That's ridiculous.
The sound of the shot to Lavoy is more consistent with the sound of less lethal shots. We now have confirmed that the foam bullet shot is heard on the video and that the sound is consistent with the less lethal shot. This is all completely consistent with the foam bullet theory. Victoria screams immediately after the shot. This indicates that Victoria saw Lavoy being shot. Before Victoria screams, Shauna says, "Stay down." After Victoria screams, Shauna again says, "Stay down." This indicates that Victoria was not staying down at this time and is further evidence that Victoria witnessed this shot.
Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down.
Victoria claims that she watched Lavoy get shot while walking with his hands in the air. She clearly describes the first shot as being separate from the 3-shot sequence that killed Lavoy. Her description of this shot is consistent with the video and consistent with the foam bullet theory.
They shot him like right there because he was just walking with his hands in the air, and I saw it. I swear to God, he was just walking with his hands in the air, and they shot him. And they shot him dead, and then after he was down on the ground, they shot him 3 more times.
Are they shooting him?
The FBI agent turns away immediately after the shot. Because of the rapidness of this action, he must have planned his exit before taking the shot.
Stay down. Stay down. Stay down. Stay down.
This FBI agent turns away as soon as Lavoy begins to reach. His mission has been accomplished. Now he needs to make his escape. The FBI agent turning away at this time is an extreme action that is consistent with the foam bullet theory, but strongly contradicts the theory of Lavoy reaching for a gun. The FBI agent is not leaving his post, since his job was not to disarm and secure Lavoy, but to get Lavoy to reach for his wound. His job is now to get away so that his shot will not be discovered. The FBI agent's gun hand remains pointed at Lavoy even as he is beginning to turn. This indicates that a shot has just been taken. His gun hand remains tensed longer because it must absorb the gun recoil. Had he not just taken a shot, his gun hand would have moved with his body as he turned. This FBI agent is trying to hide, but not from Lavoy. He is trying to avoid being noticed on the video. While Lavoy is being killed, he crouches low in front of the truck, making himself nearly invisible to the camera. While Lavoy is being killed, this FBI agent is trying not to be seen. He wants the focus to be on the officers making the kill shot. Immediately after Lavoy has been shot, this FBI agent gets up out of hiding. This FBI agent now aims his gun in the normal way and is no longer hiding his shot. He acts as if he never had interaction with Lavoy. After this FBI agent points his gun at Lavoy's white truck, less lethal rounds can be heard hitting the truck near where he is aiming. According to the major incident team, only less lethal rounds were fired at Lavoy's truck at this time. This is consistent with this FBI agent being armed with foam bullets.
Damn it. Are they shooting him? Did I shoot him? You asshole. Oh my God!
In the following video clip, Sheriff Nelson will present the findings of the major incident team. I have also inserted my own comments.
When you see this footage in real time, you will see that Mr. Finicum rapidly gets out of his truck.
There was no mention of the 2 shots that were fired at Lavoy as he got out of the truck.
He is commanded to get on the ground. He does not comply with commands and get on the ground, and continues moving away from his truck. He is commanded a second time to get on the ground. Again, he does not comply and continues moving away.
The video has been stopped just a few frames before Lavoy is shot with a foam bullet.
He reaches across his body with his right hand into his jacket towards the area.
This is not even an accurate description of the events in the video. Lavoy is clearly reaching with both hands. Saying that he is reaching across his hand is misleading.
Was found. The Oregon State body with his right hand into his jacket towards the area where his gun was found.
If Lavoy was reaching for a gun, he should have a gun in his hand after the first reach. There is no reason for him to fail at this task. There is no reason to look down, no reason to reach more than once, and no reason to put his hands up between reaches. These events are not consistent with reaching for a gun.
The Oregon State Police do not shoot. It is important to note that our investigation has determined that at this point, Mr. Finicum has not been shot with any lethal rounds or less lethal rounds.
If Lavoy has not been shot with any lethal or less lethal rounds, then there is nothing to prevent Lavoy from successfully grabbing his gun. If the major incident team claims that Lavoy was actually reaching for a gun, they need to explain what prevented him from doing it successfully after 3 tries. They have presented a case for why the officers may have mistakenly thought Lavoy was reaching for a gun, but when they try to claim that Lavoy actually was reaching for a gun, their reasoning fails. In order to maintain the theory of Lavoy reaching for a gun, they have had to ignore most of the evidence or pretend that it is not relevant and focus only on the evidence that was engineered, primarily Lavoy reaching down. They must also gloss over the details of the reaching event, because when you look at them too closely, they are not consistent with Lavoy reaching for a gun. This is a summary of the evidence that was presented. 3 theories are compared. First, the theory that Lavoy reached for a gun. Second, the foam bullet theory, but assuming that it was not premeditated and that the FBI agent made the decision to fire as the situation developed. Third, the foam bullet theory that has been presented in which the murder of Lavoy was premeditated. A plus sign is placed in the table if the evidence is explained by the theory. A minus sign is placed in the table if the evidence contradicts the theory. If a spot in the table is blank, this means that the evidence is not explained by the theory. To score each theory, 1 is added for each plus sign and 1 is subtracted for each minus sign. The total score for each theory is shown here. The theory that Lavoy reached for a gun has a negative score. This is because more evidence contradicts it than supports it. The foam bullet theory explains all of the evidence. If we remove the premeditated part of the foam bullet theory, the theory falls apart and explains less than half of the evidence. This shows that to explain all of the evidence, the murder of Lavoy must have been premeditated. It is clear that this analysis strongly supports the foam bullet theory and strongly supports the conclusion that these actions were premeditated. Because the actions of the FBI agent are radically inconsistent with normal behavior and normal procedures, there is no way to avoid the conclusion that these actions were premeditated. Although the actions of only one FBI agent have been analyzed, the theory requires that he was not acting alone. The planners of this operation are implicated even more because of the numerous coordinated actions necessary to create this situation. The evidence is clear and the conclusion is certain. The murder of Lavoy Finicum by the FBI was premeditated.
About it, I'm asking you to follow me, and we're going to make a hard stand.
A one family's fight.
The issue with the Bundy family started more than 20 years ago.
Armed standoff in Bunkerville.
Sparked a movement.
We did not anticipate these hundreds of militia people coming in, many of them heavily armed.
I was convinced it was going to go south, that it was that close. This became sort of this rallying cry for anti-government extremists everywhere.
And challenged the federal government.
Bundy took over the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
And that's exactly why we had guns there. They would respect us, and if we didn't, they would have tased us and hauled us off in paddy wagons.
Our number one priority was to resolve the occupation peacefully. They had armed guards at the gates. They had armed patrols. They clearly intended to defend their position.
The inside story of an armed uprising and a movement that calls themselves American Patriots.
I'm the son of a rancher. That's what I am. And I don't want to be anything more than that. My family established, homesteaded the Virgin Valley in southern Nevada in 1877, and they began to run cattle. I always dreamed about being able to ranch. But the federal government has turned its eyes as modern conquerors and focus on controlling the land and the resources. We are at a dangerous time. And I'm not just talking about ranchers. I'm talking about all aspects of what this nation was built on.
When we met Ammon Bundy, he was facing the possibility of life in prison. He had been called a hero and a criminal, a patriot and a domestic terrorist. Ammon claimed he never wanted to be anything more than a rancher, but in 2016, he led the largest armed uprising against the federal government in a generation.
The modern-day range war is taking place right now in Bunker. Cliven Bundy's fight against the feds has ignited a firestorm of debate.
Dozens of armed federal officers are preparing for a showdown with the Nevada cattle rancher.
Rancher Cliven Bundy.
Cliven Bundy says other cattle ranchers were forced off the land, but he is refusing.
In the fall of 2013, Ammon Bundy's family lost a and fines. For 20 years, the government had been trying to phase out ranching in Bunkerville to deal with development and environmental issues. Some ranchers shut down, others took buyouts, but Ammon's father, Cliven Bundy, refused.
My dad said no. And when they come and said, "You're going to take it anyway?" he said, "Hell no. You're not going to take away what my grandfathers passed down to me." He said no.
The issue with the Bundy family started more than 20 years ago.
Steve Ellis was a deputy director of the Bureau of Land Management, the BLM, which grants permits to ranchers to graze their cattle on public land.
The U.S. government's a huge landlord in the West. Inherently, there's going to be conflicts and challenges for us in making decisions. BLM was making a change in Mr. Bundy's permit. Mr. Bundy rejected that and stopped paying his grazing fees, and that started the whole thing.
The BLM was threatening to decrease his cattle operation to the point where there'd be nothing left. But ranchers can't just stop paying their grazing fees. Even as a form of protest, it's difficult to make the case that if you stop paying, you can still continue operating. So the only action the BLM can take at that point is to impound Bundy's cattle.
The Bundys declared a range war, and the BLM finally sent in armed agents to oversee the removal of the cattle.
Rangers and agents from several federal agencies are preparing to move against rancher Cliven Bundy.
The Bureau of Land Management came in and began to build their compound. It was built like a military base. And I'm, saying, "Dad, I really want to be able to do something if you need me to do it."
As the BLM was impounding hundreds of the Bundys' cattle, Ammon's brother David began filming government convoys.
Copy, go ahead and make contact. Hey, sir.
When agents ordered him to stop, he refused, as his older brother Ryan tried to intervene.
Okay. I am going to take him with me. Okay, he's a grown man. He can take himself. Okay, sir? It's your first choice, sir. Khalif, I'm gonna drag you out of the car, okay? Here in a second. Sir, lead now.
Several men came down, threw him to the ground, and then they detained him and took him to the compound.
1608, turn the camera off. Bundy's left the area.
It was that night that my dad said, "Well, I guess it's time for you to come." When I dropped down into the valley, I couldn't believe what I saw. I pulled into the protest site, and there's like 40 or 50 people there. It was quite amazing to see the people unite.
As he arrived in Bunkerville, he found that ranchers from across the state had rallied to his father's defense.
This Bundy family, no more than just a good ranch family. There's a good example of what they've tried to do to them right here on this deal right here. Only the people have finally had enough.
Well, the last 20 years, they've been after the good guys.
Yeah.
Ranchers have been frustrated with the federal government for a very long time. They severely cut back the amount of time cattle can be on public lands. Ranchers are always having to look over their shoulder and wonder, when is my ranch no longer going to be viable? The Bundys are among the last ranchers in Clark County.
As the crowds grew, protesters confronted government agents.
They body slammed my Aunt Margaret to the ground. And they tased me. That was all caught on video. And then that video went viral. And that's when more people started coming.
I was very worried about the optics of it. I thought, wow, this is not good, and the optics of this is going to be horrible.
This skirmish quickly turned into an angry mob, and protesters were hurt.
They tased me again, probably because I didn't drop on the ground.
We always knew the potential they would not cooperate, but we did not anticipate those large numbers of people coming in.
In the past, we saw similar activities of protest. But what's different about 2014 in Bunkerville is that a bunch of people show up to support Cliven Bundy who are not ranchers at all.
Cliven was contacted by a militia group from Montana who asked to come to the ranch. And on Facebook, his wife Carol called for militias from across the country to come and support them. That caught the attention of Ryan Lenz at the Southern Poverty Law Center.
We track anti-government groups and extremist groups.
Because this is America, and I want. The first time I heard about Bundy Ranch was.
Brandon Rapola, a Marine veteran, runs a small militia in Oregon.
To come in as a militarized force against your citizen like this, that's when we, the people, we say, no, this is not what the Constitution stands for. And we have to remind our federal government that we are the power.
People are coming in from out of state now to hold off the federal rangers, and many are armed.
Bringing out the latest from the Bundy Ranch, where the militia has arrived in support of Cliven Bundy.
Within less than a 24-hour period, I got my gear ready and made an 18-hour straight drive down there. And you had people from all over the country. And a lot of the people that I've met were prior military, were still active military in special forces, in different branches. Everybody had a purpose or a reason to come, but it was all based on the fact that they know somebody's being abused and something's not right.
Militias from around the country descended on Bunkerville.
The Oath Keepers, which is this group of former military and police personnel, the 3 percenters who believe that they are prepared to fight the federal government, much like the colonists were against the British. And so Bunkerville becomes this sort of petri dish of anti-government extremist thought.
The Bureau of Land Management watched with increasing alarm as the situation escalated.
We're surrounded by people with guns. These hundreds of militia people coming in, many of them are heavily armed from around the country.
On April 12th, the BLM said they would stop rounding up more cattle. But that wasn't enough for Cliven. He wanted all his cows back.
Good morning, citizens of Clark County, Nevada. Good morning, America.
Cliven basically says, we're about to take this country back, and let's go get my cattle.
We're going to go and take the rest of them out of the compound trails up here above the freeway.
And boom, they're off.
Let's get her done.
The Bunkerville protest was becoming an uprising.
We're taking back our county. That's basically what's going to happen. Then we're going to take back our state.
Ammon and hundreds of protesters headed for the lot where the government had impounded the family's cattle.
All units, be advised, new info coming in. Clive advocating they rip down the fence and get the cows back.
Are you people stupid or what?
We obtained video taken by law enforcement that day.
I'm missing the one guy on the bridge.
Some of it has never been shown before.
They were all heading to this wash where the main entrance was to the pen where the BLM held his cattle.
Control RC, I need reinforcements down into the wash.
As the protesters converged on the cattle pen, law enforcement officers from a half-dozen agencies scrambled to hold them off.
Where you want to set up the triage area?
Behind the vehicles right here.
Okay, all friendly.
If they come with horses, you're gonna have to probably want to get in the back of a truck because they'll run you over.
If they break this, we're not going to be able to stop horses.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Once we were down there, they were in stacking position with their rifles up.
You're my lead. I want you guys to be ready for second wave, okay? When I call in second wave, come in.
We're afraid because they're telling us that if we don't disperse it, they're going to open fire. And that's what we believed that they would do.
But the militias were in position too.
Anybody who went there was prepared for the federal government to take lethal action.
Long guns right in front of us. I've got 2 more over here that are knelt down. It's at least 10 or 12 long guns.
I was thinking of how serious the situation would become. We had a very volatile situation right then.
Northbound lanes has rifles with scopes.
Which one?
Northbound, the furthest bridge.
The government had snipers and the militia put in place counter snipers. It was a level of tension and borderline violence. I was convinced it was going to go south, that it was that close.
I've lost count how many long guns. We get many more down here, we're going to be outgunned.
The SWAT teams knew these guys are out there to defend, and they will whip your ass. We will die.
Bundy! Bundy, come here!
At the head of the crowd, Ammon Bundy confronted BLM agent Dan Love, demanding he release the family's cattle.
And you guys need to leave.
Okay.
You need to leave. That's the
I'm telling you, you need to de-escalate the situation.
No,
I'm imploring upon you your responsibility to de-escalate. That's it.
We're staying here until they're gone. Okay? That's what we're doing.
BLM, go home!
What was going through my mind, it is not worth it to have anybody hurt over 400 cows that they had impounded at that point. So I told them to pull out, and pull out now.
The Bundys and their militia supporters had led an armed standoff in defiance of court orders, and no one was arrested. They even got their cows back.
The Bureau of Land Management was trying to root my dad off his ranch for 30 years now. For it to unfold the way it did was absolutely a miracle to us and amazing.
They can gloat all they want, but everyone went home safe. And I also knew that eventually the wheels of justice would start turning, that was not the end of it.
The federal government had backed down, but it would spend the next 2 years trying to bring the Bundys to justice. The discussion was as divided as the country itself.
A law-breaking rancher named Cliven Bundy, and it has literally put the Bureau of Land Management in the crosshairs of sniper rifles.
Frankly, I thought there was a lack of proportionality here by the government and snipers and surrounding your ranch and taking your cattle. None of it made any sense, and I think
when the standoff at Bunkerville happens, it is very much a local battle and a local relationship with the BLM, but because of the coverage it draws from the media, there are other people who will appropriate Bundy and his cause and make it their own because it seems to support their larger message of out-of-control, tyrannical federal government.
I'm worried about the lies that are told to us about the IRS, about what happened in Benghazi, and the lies that sold health care. I'm concerned that the government is overreaching here.
I don't think in any way Cliven Bundy wanted to be the poster child for Sean Hannity or the far right. I don't think he was particularly interested in any given political movement.
The Bundys wanted to use their new platform to talk about what mattered to them, their belief that public land should be managed locally, not by the federal government.
The fact is, the federal government have overstepped their bounds and taken...
But within days, an interview with Cliven making racist comments went viral.
I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves, picking cotton, having family life and doing things, or are they better off under government subsidy?
Cliven Bundy
it turns out, is a racist. He is, of course...
The backlash was immediate.
Conservatives stampeded away from Nevada rancher Cliven Bundy.
I believe those comments are downright racist, they are repugnant, they are bigoted, and it's beyond disturbing.
From then on, voice of the Bundy family.
The people, the internet and other places.
What is the purpose?
He argued that under the Constitution, the federal government has no right to restrict ranchers' use of public land, even if they don't own it.
If we didn't have the Constitution, we wouldn't have the federal government.
He was becoming a leader in the so-called Patriot movement.
If people want to call me a leader, that's fine. But I'm doing what every person should do. And it's that simple.
In his travels, Ammon learned of a family in eastern Oregon whose battles with the federal government reminded him of his own.
2/3 of the way up on that mountain where you see the snow, that's where our cattle are at.
Like the Bundys, the Hammonds were ranchers who repeatedly clashed with federal officers over the use of public land. 20 years earlier, their fight with the government received national attention.
Hammond has become a virtual martyr to many in the land rights movement.
In 2012, the Hammonds were prosecuted for setting fires that destroyed federal land and endangered people's lives. They claimed the fires were to maintain their grazing land and had simply spread out of control. But they faced a mandatory minimum of 5 years.
The Hammonds are longtime ranchers in eastern Oregon that had been charged with arson. Their case went to trial in Pendleton, Oregon, and that resulted in convictions.
The jury found them guilty, but the judge reduced their sentences. 3 months for Dwight, 1 year for his son Stephen. But that didn't satisfy the prosecutors.
The law wasn't followed, so that matter was appealed, and they were sentenced to the 5-year mandatory minimum.
2 Oregon ranchers must go back to prison for starting fires that burned on federal land.
When Ammon Bundy heard the Hammonds were going back to prison, he was outraged.
We hear about the Hammonds. This urge just filled my whole body. I felt a divine drive, an urge that said, you have to get involved.
So in the fall of 2015, Ammon went to Burns, Oregon, a place like the rest of Harney County that had fallen on hard times. Chris Briles used to be the fire chief here.
I moved here in 1978. Burns was kind of cool. It was the place I wanted to be because it was away from the big city and all the extraneous crazy stuff that goes on in the rest of the world. And so it was a safe and wonderful place to raise my kids, I thought. The economy was booming. There were a lot of people working in the mill. There were a lot of loggers, a lot of truckers hauling logs. Ranchers were doing well. It was a nice place to be. But now it's just a graveyard of industry. And it's definitely not the same. But I love this area.
My name's Ammon Bundy. I don't live in Oregon.
The first time that Ammon came to Harney County, I heard on Facebook, because we don't have a radio station here.
If we were abiding by the Constitution, the Hammonds would never be in the position they're in. If we were abiding by the Constitution, these ranchers would be able to ranch without being in fear. If we're abiding by the Constitution.
I've always been involved with the community, and I thought, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find out what kind of weirdos we got in our backyard now, you know. And then Emma got up and started talking.
The Lord was not pleased with what was happening to the Hammonds, okay? And I apologize for being emotional. I hope you guys can get past that.
I listened, and I was just kind of transfixed. It's like, wow, this guy's sincere. You know, he had found out about the Hammonds, and he has some real concerns. Well, I'll be dang, this is a real cowboy.
Ammon took to social media, trying to bring attention to the Hammonds situation.
What has happened to the Hammonds will happen to more and more people. And it is that simple. And so I am asking you to come to Harney County. We are to stand now, and that we are to do these things now, or we will not have anything to pass on to our children.
Ammon's call to action was heard by many of the same militia members who had supported his family at the Bundy Ranch.
When I found out Ammon Bundy had contact with the Hammonds, I contacted Ammon and said, hey, I would like to help.
After the Bunkerville standoff, militias around the country had been energized, and Brandon Rapola formed an alliance with other groups in the Northwest. They called themselves the Pacific Patriots Network.
Okay, so 2 mags of 5.
2 bags of 5 for now.
Joseph Rice leads a PPN chapter in Oregon's Rogue Valley.
Ammon Bundy has drawn attention to the abuses by the 3-letter agencies in the management of our natural resources. It started the discussion. It's why you guys are sitting here. 5 rounds in place, transition to pistol, 2 rounds.
I don't know any other way to describe what happened to the Hammond family, other than I don't understand what country we live in when it comes to that.
When ready, may commence.
Fire!
There was a need for people to be defended.
Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
Two days before the Hammonds returned to jail, Ammon Bundy and the Pacific Patriots Network organized a rally in downtown Burns.
On January 2nd, the Bundys and his followers had organized a rally in support of the Hammond family.
Where's Idaho? Where's Oregon? Where's...
Several hundred people showed up at the rally.
We're going to continue down this road to the corner of the Hammondsville. Everybody ready to do this?
And they marched through the streets of Burns.
The marchers stopped in front of the Hammonds' home.
The most humbling experience that anybody could have.
Amen.
The march was supposed to end in the Safeway parking lot, but Ammon had decided to take things further.
After we rallied there in Burns, what were we supposed to do? Just go home? To say, okay, look, you know, the Hammond family will go to prison for 5 years. You know, what are the people just to go home? We had to stand for them.
Those who are ready to actually do something about it, I'm asking you to follow me and go to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. And we're going to
For now, hoping to ride this thing out.
many of you to restore and defend the Constitution.
They had armed guards at the gates. They had armed patrols that roamed the perimeter of the facility. It moved heavy equipment to block the roads. They clearly intended to stay and to defend their position.
But most of Ammon's militia allies had stayed behind in Burns. For them, taking the refuge was a step too far.
Oregon 3% is not going. The Pacific Patriots Network is not going. We respect the Patriots and the people that want to go out there and do that, but as far as Oregon and Idaho is concerned, that's not what we're here to do.
Us and PPN and Oregon 3% and the other Patriot groups and leadership said, no, that's not what we're here for.
I had no idea, I had no intention that something this drastic would come from this.
The Burns incident absolutely separated the Patriot movement. What happened in Malheur felt offensive. It felt like you're taking the fight to them rather than defending somebody else.
Ammon was left with a core group of supporters. Many of them had been at the standoff in Bunkerville.
Over the first initial days of the occupation, we were able to identify a core group of leadership who were active in recruiting people to come to the refuge and communicating with the press.
One of Ammon's closest allies at Malheur was an old family friend.
Lavoy Finicum. I'm a rancher in northern Arizona.
We were aware of who Lavoy Finicum was. Like Ammon Bundy, he was part of that leadership group.
And like Ammon, he had a following on social media.
Hello, everyone. This is Lavoy Finicum, One Cowboy Stand for Freedom. BLM, here I am. You want to pick on somebody? Come pick on me.
The occupiers braced themselves for a showdown, but the FBI raid never came.
When dealing with a situation like this, tactical patience is as important as a good strategic plan. We had seen what had happened a year and a half or so before, and the tension and escalation that occurred at that point.
So the FBI held back and waited. The occupiers traveled regularly between the refuge and the town, and the authorities made no effort to arrest them.
It wasn't easy. It goes counter to any law enforcement officer that you'll ever meet to stand by and watch someone break the law, clearly break the law, and be out touting the fact that they're breaking the law and not do anything about it.
And that's exactly why we had guns there. If we had them, they would respect us and allow us to speak.
These lands, they need to be returned back to the people.
And if we didn't, then they would do what they've done to protesters all across this nation. They would have tased us. They would have sprayed us with mace. They would have put zip ties on us and hauled us off in paddy wagons.
The standoff dragged on for days and then weeks as the occupiers issued demands. Some of them posted video of the negotiations with the FBI.
Well, maybe first you could come out and look at us in the eye in person. You could give us your real first name and your real last name, and you could be a true representative of the people, and that would start. That would be a great start.
Their demands were that the FBI leave Harney County and that the control of not just the refuge, but all federal lands in Harney County be returned back to the citizens of the county and or the state. Those are not demands that we could meet, nor are they in agreement in any way, shape, or form with the interpretation of the Constitution as has been determined by the Supreme Court over many, many years.
The FBI had set up a command post in a school, and the airport became a staging area for tactical teams and equipment.
The sheriff, state police, and federal government all of a sudden escalated their force. Then we realized, holy crap, we need to make sure that nothing bad was going to happen to Ammon.
The Pacific Patriots Network decided to come out to the refuge.
Back up. You guys won't be allowed to come anywhere closer.
They said they still opposed the occupation and were only there to prevent an attack by the FBI.
As we have seen with federal operations in the past, we don't want to see a Waco situation occur here at all.
They were always armed, and they viewed themselves as a buffer between those who were on the refuge and law enforcement. I asked, what do you mean by being a buffer? And I never got a great answer.
Mr. Bundy, be very clear. It is time for you to go home. These people...
In town, the residents were turning against the Bundys.
How was Harney County impacted? It's like there was a big earthquake through the population. It shattered us. You know, it fragmented people. You know, there were families that were arguing over things, you know, and friends that weren't friends anymore. And people are in fear.
You people get the hell out of here. You don't know the damn nut bolt or nothing else here.
Almost a month into the occupation, Lavoy Finicum told reporters that he sensed the FBI's mood shifting.
The tenor has changed. They have become more hardened. And when they step out of their vehicles, now they're stepping out with their rifles. They do not intend on losing here. And we do not intend giving it back to them.
The next day, the FBI saw an opportunity to end it.
On January 26th, the FBI had developed information that a significant number of the leadership of the occupation was going to be traveling from the refuge to a meeting in John Day, Oregon. We knew the route they were going to take, we knew the cars they were going to be in.
2 cars left the refuge bound for John Day County, 90 miles away. An FBI surveillance plane followed overhead. Ammon rode in the second car. His brother Ryan, Lavoy Finicum, and a militia leader were in the first. At the last minute, they were joined by 2 women, including Shauna Cox.
I wasn't
couldn't let the occupation go on forever. So the intent of this operation was to get them as far away from any populated area as possible.
30 miles down a twisting mountain road, the vehicles entered an area outside of cell phone reception. The FBI, backed by state police, made their move. Officers pulled the cars over. Ammon Bundy was finally arrested. But in the lead vehicle, Lavoy refused to get out.
I'm not turning off the vehicle. This is Lavoy Finicum. You want to shoot me? You shoot me. But I'm not going anywhere.
They had unmarked vehicles. We don't know who these people are. And we didn't want to get out of the vehicle. And that's why I pulled up the camera. I was in defense mode. And our best weapon is our cameras.
Who are you? Yeah, who are you? Who are you?
Oregon State Police.
Oregon State Police.
Okay, well, I'm going over to meet the sheriff in Grant County. You're going to come along with us, and you're going to talk with us over there.
No, you're going to turn off your vehicle.
You can go ahead and shoot me. Put the laser right there, put the bullet through the head.
I could see the laser on top of Lavoy's hat. We were absolutely afraid for our life.
My blood on your hands? Get it done, because we got people to see and places to go.
Right now, you need to do what you're told.
No, I don't. You need to back off. You need to back off.
Well, if we duck and you drive, what are they going to do? Try to knock us out? How much further we got to go?
We got about 50 miles. I'm going to go. You guys ready?
Okay, get down. Then you duck down. Go. Keep going.
What about Ammon and those guys?
We can't get around them. I'm going to go get help.
Coming up fast.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, but... Hang on.
Okay, so they're shooting.
Hang on.
Okay, we're here.
Go ahead and shoot me.
Damn! Trying to.
Lavoy Finicum immediately pops out of the car. Law enforcement engage him and over a period of several seconds give him commands to keep his hands up, stop reaching, stop reaching. But he reached several times in his jacket and was shot by law enforcement.
Are they shooting him? Did they shoot him? You ass. Oh my God! Okay. Stay down, Ryan. Oh God! Stay down. Stay down. Oh!
God, keep us safe, please.
Please protect us,
Please,
God.
God.
Please protect us. Please protect us. Please protect us. We need help. We need help. We need help.
Did they kill him?
Our most kind and gracious Father who art in heaven, we come before thee in honor and remembrance of our beloved friend, your son Lavoy Finicum. And we thank thee, O Father, for his selfless sacrifice.
The killing of Lavoy Finicum made him a martyr to his followers.
He has become a beacon of light
But it was the beginning of the end of the Malheur occupation.
to this nation and to this world.
Ammon and his supporters were now in custody, charged with felonies. He and 13 others would stand trial in Portland.
We're not going anywhere, and we will continue to take our stand. Governor Keith Brown is responsible for the murder of Lavoy Finicum, for the murder of a cowboy.
Dory Day joined the Patriot movement after Lavoy Finicum's death and Ammon's arrest. She led daily protests outside the jail where Ammon and his co-defendants were being held for trial.
I'm out here protesting today and every day against the federal government on behalf of our American patriots.
Federal prosecutors had imposed the most severe charge they could: conspiracy to impede federal employees.
There were not a lot of options in the federal criminal code for really addressing the conduct. There was no blueprint for what to do when people take over a wildlife refuge. One could reasonably conclude that part of the reason that these folks were there was to keep Fish and Wildlife employees from doing their jobs. That it simply was not normal to have thousands of rounds of ammunition on a wildlife refuge in a workspace.
The prosecution entered over 1,000 exhibits into evidence, from wiretaps, electronic surveillance, and informants. Their case seemed overwhelming.
It was unlike any case I've ever covered.
Many of you have asked us for what is our name.
You had an armed occupation of federal property that was broadcast. It was documented on the defendant's own Facebook pages.
It is a time to stand up and come to Harney County.
A lot of people thought this was going to be a slam dunk conviction.
Ammon's attorney, Marcus Mumford, came up with a strategy to turn the conspiracy case on its head. While the prosecution tried to focus on the criminal charges, Mumford was making a political case.
From very early on in the case, it was clear we needed to show they were protesting and they were not conspiring. The government's evidence, it was all about the ammunition. It was all about the guns.
The notion that you have this right, or it makes you more patriotic if you're willing to storm into a facility with your guns, that isn't how it's done in this country.
Contact fire!
This video, the only one of the occupiers firing weapons at the refuge, was a key piece of evidence for the prosecution. But in the closing days of the trial, it was revealed that an FBI informant had overseen the shooting exercise.
It was one of the turning points in the trial when we brought up this issue of government informants. There had been a government informant who it appears was specifically recruited and instructed to go to the refuge in order to get video of these guys doing violent things.
The FBI agent who led the investigation defended the use of informants in the case.
There are strict guidelines. Law enforcement is not allowed, nor would they ever send in an informant to instigate any criminal activity. One of the things that I think needs to be crystal clear in any event like this, that law enforcement is going to use any tool in their toolbox that they can to bring a situation like this to a peaceful conclusion.
The case itself from the government side was one thing. Of course, our presentation of the case was this is government overreach. And the trial itself became an example of it.
Ryan Bundy!
As the 7-week trial came to an end, protesters continued their vigils outside the jail.
We are political prisoners! Free the patriots!
Then, in late October, a verdict that shocked the city.
It was a pretty jaw-dropping verdict. Everyone has been acquitted.
7 former Malheur refuge occupiers have been found not guilty.
The jury foreman, he looked at me and I looked at him. I gave him a nod. And that was the best I could do at that point, for saying thank you.
The jurors hadn't been convinced the occupation was the conspiracy the government laid out.
We received the verdict. It was surprising. In the almost 2 decades that I've been handling criminal cases as a prosecutor, it has gotten more difficult with federal law enforcement like FBI agents because there seems to be, from our vantage point, more distrust of those institutions.
The problem with the acquittals is that it seems the Bundys won twice. What it said was that you can go in, terrorize the community around you, and walk away scot-free.
But Ammon's victory would be short-lived. Federal prosecutors in Nevada had finally filed their own charges against him and his family for the Bunkerville standoff. And as the verdict was read, marshals were there to take him back to face charges. Marcus Mumford started to protest.
So I'm arguing with the marshals, and we're having this conversation about, well, if you have the order, show it to me. If not, you should be free to go. And at that point, a marshal came up and just grabbed me. All of them surrounded me at the same time, put their hands on me, and just, started to pull my hands behind my back. And then they put me down on the floor. I was on my belly. They tased me. They put the stun gun on me, and they hit me with it.
Mumford was arrested for creating a disturbance in the court. The charges were later dropped, and Ammon would be transferred to a prison in Nevada. It turned out the FBI had been trying to build its case against Ammon and his family ever since the standoff in 2014. Shortly after the standoff had ended, the FBI infiltrated the family ranch.
Hello, Bundy's.
Yes, can I speak with Clive Bundy, please?
May I ask who's calling?
This is Charles Johnson with Longbow Productions.
Okay, just a second, let me get to it.
They posed as a documentary film company, Longbow Productions, and filmed over several months. The footage has not been broadcast before, and we've concealed the undercover agents' identities and voices.
This is Ammon Bundy. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I don't know if you can tell, there's a little level of uncomfortable, and just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Absolutely.
So we looked you up online. We found just a pretty simple website.
I just don't keep a lot of stuff on there because it's not my product anymore, and that's why I'm investing my money here. It's because I don't want it to go to the wrong hands.
I think I've got what I want. I feel a lot more comfortable about it.
Hey, I'm looking forward to actually sitting down with you. All right, clown set and roll camera. Did you think you might have to take a life?
I never did once think I'd have to take a life. I was never armed. I mean, I never...
In the interviews, they wanted to know who planned the standoff and who was in charge.
How would you put yourself in the family rank structure? Because it seems to me that you're very influential to your family.
So at this circumstance or just in general?
Well, with this circumstance, like when y'all get together.
My dad was really skeptical, he really was. And I ended up basically talking my family into it. And so, they went to our home.
Can you hear me now? Testing, testing.
I think about that. The whole time my mom's in there cooking for them and they're plotting to destroy our family.
The FBI also used its access to the Bundy family to convince militia members to talk. One of them was Greg Burleson, who had been at the standoff.
Some drink, cold beer, mixed drink, what would you prefer? Here, okay. If you need to use the bathroom, if you need to refill with your drink, if you need to move around, we'll do it, but just finish the thought. Don't be moving and talking at the same time, because then we lose focus real quick.
Right. And on that note, I'd like another shot.
What would the response have been had the federal government come back then?
Dead bodies. Literally.
So just engage them as soon as...
Once we set up a perimeter, anything that comes into the perimeter, it doesn't matter if we're up at the Bundy Ranch or if we're out in the southern deserts. If it comes into our perimeter, if it's not a friendly, it dies.
The FBI declined to comment on the operation, but federal prosecutors used some of the footage to help convict Burleson of 8 charges, including threatening and assaulting a federal officer. He was sentenced to 68 years in prison.
You have to know. Have you ever killed anybody?
I can't tell you that. I can't tell you that.
If we don't stand now, we will never get our lands back.
The footage is also part of the case against the Bundy family.
Is this an interview and a documentary, or is this an interrogation? That was a clear question.
As the Bundys awaited trial, once again, protesters gathered. This time outside the gates of the private prison in Nevada where they were being held.
Truth is out, and now we know. Let the political prisoners go. Today it's the Bundys, tomorrow it's you. Today it's the Bundys, tomorrow it's you.
The Bundys had galvanized the so-called Patriot movement and channeled anti-government sentiment that continues.
Just as you granted a big miracle for us in Portland, we know that you have miracles for us here. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now, if convicted, the Bundys face decades behind bars.
Yeah, my dad's 7 years old. It's a death sentence to him. My brothers, it's all of us. All of us will be dead before they let us go. As much as I hope that we are found not guilty and I get to go home to my family, I don't think it'll matter. I believe that what we have done has made a difference and will continue to make a difference.
When tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty!
Whether we agree or disagree, even with the Bundys, we all are victims when this is allowed to take place. When there is this kind of breach of the rule of law, we're all harmed.
In November 2017, a surprise.
Evan Bundy is out of jail today. Charges stemming from a 2014 armed standoff.
The judge ordered that the Bundys could be released while their trial was underway.
We suffered for 2 years trying to tell the world that what happened there was not what the government's been saying happened.
Weeks later, all the charges against the Bundys were dismissed.
For more on this and other Frontline programs, visit our website at pbs.org/frontline.
Taking over those headquarters. They have put that there in place to try at least 8 people. One person has been out here for many weeks. There are also other folks who are still here, and they are not leaving,
Let me show you something about that.
They have been out here on the Malheur Wildlife Refuge which is just over there, the headquarters, taking over those buildings there. And
the man
some of
was
them just
unarmed.
are not leaving.
This is his
gentleman
pistol.
Here, is showing off his pistol that
he was totally unarmed when he was killed.
At this point, we still have not heard from police exactly how this turned violent, but we do know that they have blocked off some of the area, and we do not have word as to what they're going to do, but there is going to be a press conference a little bit later on today.
Now, they murdered an innocent man with his hands up like this. Shot him in the chest 3 times. I know he was unarmed because I'm wearing his fucking pistol. Gunshots, guys. Somebody's shooting somewhere.
This is Armageddon now. They might kill us. They probably will kill us here. But we're just a few. There is many more.
Q1, where are you at? Q1, over.
There's no fear here because I know this is the right thing.
Anti-government protesters occupying federal land at a national wildlife refuge and calling on militia members from around the country to join them.
It started with a group of ranchers unhappy that 2 of their neighbors were sentenced to lengthy federal prison stints for starting fires on their own land. Their supporters first protested, and then a group broke off and decided to take control of a national wildlife refuge in Oregon.
People ask me, Jason, what was the plan? The plan was, I'm going to have a First Amendment protest that cannot and will not be ignored.
I'm asking you to follow me and go to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge. And we're going to make a hard stand.
These are not federal lands, these are state lands.
That's right.
You don't stop the federal
Follow me.
government.
It's about 40 miles.
guys always talk about getting off the couch and doing something. How come things in our country doesn't change? Well, now's the time to stand up and make that stand and make your voices heard.
Armed protesters have taken over several buildings at a wildlife refuge near Burns, Oregon.
There are no local police, no federal police, no police whatsoever in this area.
We have basically taken over the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge, and this will become a base place for patriots from all over the country to come and to be housed here. We need you to bring your arms, and we need you to come to the Malheur National Wildlife Refuge.
Description of the vehicle, please. Can I get a description of the vehicle, please?
All your federal tax dollars and all the grant money goes to people being able to make this crap right here. They find rocks and they weave. That's what I want my tax dollars to go to. We don't have better stuff to focus on than to have federal grants go to people being housed in these huts, and there they all are, the basket weavers and everything like that. There's not starving people and veterans that need help and health care and all that stuff. No, we need wrapped rocks and basket weaving and this kind of junk.
I've been writing about public lands conflicts for most of my life now. I went to the Malheur hoping to find a explanation for the rural rage that I had witnessed over 2 decades and a plan. Even if I didn't agree with it, I wanted to hear it.
Yeah, Harney County used to be the wealthiest county in the state. It's been diminished to the poorest, and it's because of fences like this.
In the early days, everybody was confused. A lot of the media was there just sort of chronicle the daily events. There were some of us probing and asking harder questions. You know, who are these people? Who organized this?
Fish and Wildlife Service come and built this fence. They did not have authority to build this fence in the first place, and so we are removing it.
I come from rural Utah, and what drove me out there is I understood this ranching culture and the community.
Talk to you soon.
Alan's kind of the textbook definition of an organizer, of an activist. He's proven really adept at getting all of these little groups together on the same page.
Ammon Bundy said that the refuge was an example of federal overreach, and now they have weapons and they're making a stand.
Woo!
11 years in the Marine Corps, 3 deployments to Iraq, but now I'm actually out serving my country.
Are you planning on tearing any more fences down, or what?
Perhaps. You know, that's can't answer what-if questions. Don't know all the answers to those. So what if is the sky.
Sure, but do you have a plan, or is there?
Not completely.
This is beautiful land. There's so much feed that we produce for America off of this. Why do we import a single beef? Why do we import a single thing of food when we're the greatest food producing country in the world? We should be exporting, bringing wealth into our country. It makes no sense. This is a good day.
Yeah, dude. Barbecued pork, man, and chicken enchiladas.
Yes. About time.
You went right on the Y, over.
Roger.
Yeah, we're just on duty, hun. Making sure everybody stays safe. We don't need a bunch of scary kids with guns by themselves. Did I mention Burns is cold this time of year, honey? Make sure you tell people what I'm doing and why I'm down here.
What was the reception like at the refuge?
It was dark by the time we got there. You know, and I'm used to guns. Guns don't bother me. I grew up with them. And when we drove in, they just backed the cars out of the way. We went down, went into this building, and pretty soon Ammon Bundy came in. And like a typical rancher, he went around, shook everybody's hand, looked everybody right in the eye, and said, "Thank you for coming." We asked him why he came. He wanted to bring attention to the plight of Westerners. There's literally not enough private land in the West to have a viable operation.
It's very difficult to ranch in the arid West. You got people on the edge already of profitability, and they're dependent upon the federal lease for all of their grazing. Ranching is not the economic engine that it was 50 years ago. Whenever your livelihood is put into jeopardy, and you have children especially, there's anger there. And it's often in rural America where opportunities to branch out are less. The Malheur Refuge became Exhibit A of that anti-federal fury.
We just come before you today, walking in your spirit, and we just thank you with your spirit through us, working through us to do your work. Your people are still here working for you, and that this country has not been lost, that no matter what people in this land want to turn you away, that you are God and that you will never turn your back.
Amen.
So you're lawful. You believe in laws. You're not anti-government.
So that's what we're doing here. You're not going to find justice in a federal court. What are we to do? What are our people to do?
You're asking for the rights, the God-given rights already.
That's right.
And to be left alone, just the harassment.
We create government to protect against criminals. But when they start to do the things that criminals normally do, well, then that redefines them now as criminals.
Amen.
The Constitution is law. Who do I call when it's violated? Slowly over time, we lose more and more. I mean, the Patriot Act, that's a pretty big piece of legislation that completely violated the Constitution and took every right of every single American in the country. And it passed with bipartisan support. Whoopee. It's terrible. I started with politics in Georgia, and I spoke out in my own hometown against spending $250,000 on a Lenco Bearcat vehicle, which was highly unnecessary. There's hundreds of these bought all across the country, and they're paid for by Department of Homeland Security. They said it was to protect police officers. So I did a public records request. I says, I want to know every officer that's been injured by gunfire in the last 20 years. I made Facebook friends with power. Honest, I wouldn't mind as a congressman, but I don't listen to me. See what happens. Maybe if I'm where they live, trying nothing. Things happening. I went to Mount. I want to be.
You would get truckloads full of peeps rolling in. Libertarian communities, militias. Everybody that could be connected and come to Oregon. We're gonna need.
They all had different motivations being here. It was hard to picture that made a lot of sense.
The land here needs to be returned to the people of this county. Federal.
You need to get out there.
The time and
I'm same token there. I think I have a double standard because I really was pushing end this, whatever it takes.
I do believe they were looking for a confrontation with the federal government, so to line federal agents up out there, I believe would have been playing into playing into their hands as far as that goes, or providing a confrontation or the spark they were looking for.
We have what's referred to as a DPMS AR-15 5.56. This is what U.S. military generally are going to be trained in some type of format with this type of weapon. This is going to be referred to as a semi-automatic sporting rifle or an assault rifle. There's many weapons that fit into this classification. I would say that the definition of assault rifle would more or less be determined by who the user was that has the weapon.
When it became apparent this was going to be a long siege, that attracted more and more media from around the country, around the world. You got cowboys with guns taking over a bird sanctuary in the middle of the desert, screaming about American tyranny.
Because I lived my life in the rural West, I have this kind of regional contempt for spectacle. And I didn't see that skepticism applied by the media that showed up every morning to enjoy the Ammon Bundy show.
Turn to us, please. Turn to us, thank you.
And call upon all those who love freedom to come and support this effort in the way that they feel they should.
What's today your first direct claim this is a terrorist organization or a violent extremist group gathering here? How do you respond to that?
I say look around.
Is there anything you could tell us about your plans to leave?
We're going to think about it and we'll get back to you guys.
They understood how to use the media and how to present their best face. The gun-toting, justice-seeking cowboy, the man of the land.
We're beginning to try to prepare to transfer this to the Harney County as the Harney County Resource Center. Did you see the sign that just came in?
Yeah.
Did it look okay?
Yeah, it looked great.
Our objective is to pass the baton to the residents of Harney County so that they can have access to their resources so that we can go home.
Shit is just thrown everywhere in this whole building. There's a brand new kayak or canoe just thrown on top of a pile of crap.
These were all sort of scripted press events to keep them in the news and to help try and control the agenda.
So essentially, this is taxpayer dollars being spent and neglected.
The goal is to recognize the fact that our federal government does not own this land. It's owned by the citizens of Harney County and the citizens of Oregon.
This is your land. This is Oregon. This is Harney County. It's not ours. I can't wait to get out of Dodge, okay? But I will stay here. This property does not go back to the federal government. It does not return to the federal government. You know, if there's just one rancher that's saying, please help me, what about him? What about the one? And so, thank you, and I will call it good at that.
Hey, boss.
Hey, hey!
Hey, Lavoy.
Good to see you.
Before we split up, I got a communication with NBC. I need to put you online with them.
Okay.
On the phone, okay?
Lavoy Finicum, a rancher from Arizona, very animated, had a good sense of media relations, sort of a, I'm gonna put my arm around your shoulder and we're all in this together against those bastards.
Finicum felt that his cultural heritage, his ability to be the person that he wanted to be, was under siege.
This is part of my ranch. This grass, I own it. It's called my grazing rights, my forage rights. And these cows are fat and sassy and looking good. And I got a few more of my cows down under some trees down there. That is mine, that I pay for, that I fight every year to make my mortgage payment on. They claim that this is theirs. And I claim that the forage right, the grass, is mine. Good people, so what can we do? We've been voting, we've been donating money, and the candidates always promised to stand up for freedom. Well, what did we do? We gave the Republican Party the House and the Senate. What have they done? Nothing, nothing. And you think we're going to give them a Republican president and they're going to stand up on the Constitution and they're going to require the federal government to live within the frameworks that we, the people, have given them, namely the Constitution? It's not going to happen.
Finicum was indeed the icon, the brave cowboy going against the despised federal power.
On government land.
People fell under the spell of the Bundy militancy during their initial confrontations.
The United States government is operating with unlimited power over we the people. Of the state and the
standoff may be over for now, but the Bundy family is ready for round two.
They had gotten all the iconic footage they needed. The cowboy had and the horses agency and prevailing. They were emboldened for sure.